Chapter 2487. Remember in 1 second, 800 mil sign small slash say net, wonderful pop-up window free reading. In fact, the Eastern, Western, and Eastern lands attach great importance to every elixir competition. After all, for cultivators, whether they are nobles, generals, or poor rogue cultivators, elixirs are indispensable in the process of cultivation. It's also because of the importance attached to the champion of each elixir competition and pill competition that the finals are arranged in the Imperial Palace. The people present are roughly divided into 3 groups, with the Eastern, Southern, and Western lands as the boundary. Since the Eastern lands are the host, the Eastern lands naturally have the most people. Sioux family, Murung family, Nalan family, Shrouded Heaven Mansion. Almost all of these famous sects and families are here. There are also many acquaintances. For example, Su Zi, who had a cold expression before she came in, but after she appeared, he revealed a silly smile and kept waving at her. Mu Yan turns her head and doesn't look at him. This kid has grown a lot taller now. It might be because his heart disease was cured, and he no longer struggles on the edge of death, so the gloomy aura around him has dissipated a lot. It's fine if he doesn't have the clear and weak pretense he used to have, but why does he have a silly taste now? Seeing that Mu Yan doesn't pay attention to him, Su Zi runs over eagerly. June. As the words are on the tip of his tongue, he suddenly realizes something and immediately changes his words. Great God Yi, you're really amazing. Not only can you draw talismans and fight, you can even refine elixirs. You will definitely win this elixir competition. I'm Su Zi of the Su family. I've admired you for a long time. Can I sit next to you? The youngster's eyes shine brightly. Mu Yan is shaken to the point that she wants to hold her forehead. She always feels that if the youngster had a furry tail behind him, he would be wagging happily right now. Moreover, young man, did you forget that your aunt also participated in the elixir competition and also entered the finals? Is it really good for you to run over and help your aunt's opponent win the championship? Cough. Your Su family's seat is over there. Mu Yan tactfully wants to refuse. However, Su Zi's expression immediately became so aggrieved that he looked like he was about to cry, and he even had an expression of accusation. His lips opened and closed soundlessly. Little missy, you didn't keep your word. You clearly said that you would take my body if you cured me. However, I waited for you in the purple cloud realm for so long, but you didn't come to find me even once. Mu Yan, cough, 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 you fucking spit it out for me. What do you mean I want your body? Qi Shao Huang, my illustrious reputation is about to be ruined by you. 7 brilliance, let him sit. Let him sit. It just so happens that I have been bored to death during this period of time. Once the competition is over, I will borrow his body to go out and have fun. Wild your sister. Bai Xia, get your ass back here. What have you taught my pure and innocent artifact spirit? Mayan coughs lightly. Sit down. Hearing this, Su Zi's expression changed instantly, and he happily sat beside Mu Yan. Su Qingling, who was drinking nearby, shook her head, but she could not help but feel suspicious. Isn't the one that Zi always talks about little Jijia Jun Mayan? Why did he worship Yap Liangchen now? Just as Su Zi's buttock sat down, a youngster with a sullen face ran over. He quickly occupied the seat next to Mu Yan. Mu Yan turned to look. She saw Lan Huahong, the little prince of the Lan family empire, revealing a bashful smile at her, and softly said, "Aunt, I also want to sit next to you, can I?" Chapter 2488. Remember in 1 second, 800 mil sign small slash say net, wonderful pop-up window free reading. Mayan. How could she say no? Luo Yu, who had been observing the Cloud Phoenix Hall and hadn't had time to sit down, turned his head and found that his seat was gone. Luo Yu's mouth twitched, and he was about to protest. Suddenly, a fragrant wind lingered at the tip of his nose. Then, his clothes tightened as someone gently pulled him forward. A smiling female voice rang in his ear, "Little handsome Luo Yu, it's been so long since we last met, did you miss this, sister?" Luo Yu looked up, only to see a beautiful and tender face right in front of him. As always, there was a carefree and playful smile on his face. It was the young miss of the Murong family, and the only girl in the Qilin team, Murong Shui. But this time, Luo Yu didn't fly into a rage out of humiliation like before. Instead, he revealed a sincere smile. "Murong Shui, you've already recovered from your previous injuries." Perhaps it was because the youth's smile was too clear and dazzling. Murong Shui's heart couldn't help but jump. His originally playful smile froze, and he loosened his hand that was hooking onto the youth's clothes. He coughed lightly and said, "The doctor who treated my injury is extremely skilled. When I woke up, my injury had almost healed." Luo Yu thought proudly, "My sixth senior sister treated you, how could her medical skills not be superb?" The corners of his mouth curled up, revealing two cute dimples on his cheeks. "I didn't see you at Longting Academy, so I thought you hadn't recovered from your injuries and were recuperating at home." For the past half a month, most of the Qilin team had gone out to train and hadn't returned. Only Zhu Chongguang hurriedly ran over and threw down a large stack of crystal notes. He happily bought a large pile of elixirs from Mayan and returned to the Zhu family of the southern land. From Zhu Chongguang, Luo Yu found out that Murong Shui had returned to the Murong family after being seriously injured by the assassins from the North Marquis residence with Chu Tianyu and Luo Yu. Hearing Luo Yu's words, Murong Shui's eyes darkened. However, it was only for a moment before she covered it up and chuckled, "Little Luo Yu, you're so concerned about Big Sister. Big Sister might misunderstand that you like me. I was just worried that I wouldn't have the chance to repay you with my body." "Luo Yu, Murong Shui, do you know who you are now? How dare you flirt with another man?" All of a sudden, a cold male voice cut in. Luo Yu turned her head to look and realized that it was someone she knew. Team Kirin support back then, the former top of the Ganhua rankings, Shui Huailu. However, compared to a few months ago, the spiritual energy in Shui Huailu's body was incredibly thin. It was clear that he had nearly been crippled in the chaotic tower. Moreover, right now, his entire body was emitting a very uncomfortable feeling of malice and ruthlessness. Luo Yu frowned the moment she saw him. "Shui Huailu, who are you yelling at?" Shui Huailu glared at him with intense killing intent and jealousy in his eyes. But very quickly, the corners of his mouth curled up, revealing a sinister smile. "I'm disciplining my fiancé, what does that have to do with you?" "Lan Luo Yu, you are so close to my fiancé. Are you trying to seduce a married woman?" Luo Yu was stunned and instinctively looked at Murong Shui, fiancé. He had no romantic feelings for Murong Shui, but he treated this handsome and carefree woman as a friend in times of adversity. He could not believe that Murong Shui would agree to marry Shui Huailu. However, this time, Murong Shui did not refute Shui Huailu's toad lusting after swan meat like before. Instead, she turned around and left quickly with a cold face. Chapter 2489. Murong Shui, stop right there. Shui Huailu roared. "Did you hear what I just said? You're about to become a daughter-in-law of the Shui family. Don't you understand the basic rules of etiquette, righteousness, and honor? Are you going to embarrass both our families when you marry into the Shui family?" Murong Shui turned around abruptly. Her cold gaze cut into Shui Huailu's face like a sharp sword. The pressure of a cultivator at the peak of the Golden Core realm was suddenly released. Shui Huailu's face paled and he spat out a mouthful of blood. His eyes were filled with rage. "Slut! How dare you!" Murong Shui, don't forget that the Murong family begged for this marriage on their knees. A slut like you who goes around seducing men, do you really think I care about you? Murong Shui laughed eerily and walked towards Shui Huailu, the killing intent in her eyes unconcealed. However, before she could get close to Shui Huailu, someone grabbed her back. "Ah, Shui, you can't." The person holding Murong Shui back was a middle-aged woman. Her cultivation was extremely high, at least in the advanced leaving aperture realm. She seemed to be Murong Shui's elder. However, she looked extremely haggard. She looked at Murong Shui with a pleading look in her eyes. "Ah, Shui, you know the current situation. Bear with it." Murong Shui clenched her fists tightly. However, she didn't say anything in the face of the middle-aged woman's pleading look. She turned around and left. The fear on Shui Huailu's face turned into pride and arrogance. He didn't care what kind of situation he was in as he yelled, "Murong Shui, I don't want you to behave like this a second time. Otherwise, don't blame me for punishing you after we get married." Luo Yu frowned as she watched Murong Shui leave. It wasn't Murong Shui's personality to swallow her anger like this. Not to mention, Shui Huailu's cultivation had dropped by more than half. He was no different from a cripple. What was Murong Shui afraid of? Shui Huailu met Luo Yu's gaze. The smile on his face turned savage. "Brat, do you think you can seduce the young miss of a noble family with that pretty face of yours?" "Ha ha ha, unfortunately, Murong Shui will soon become my woman. When she becomes the wife of the Shui family, I can teach her any lesson I want. When that time comes, I will definitely let her know the consequences of fooling around outside and not being a woman." Luo Yu sneered, "You're just a half-crippled toad. You don't even have the right to eat insects and ants, yet you want to eat swan meat? Are you thinking too much?" The arrogant smile on Shui Huailu's face twisted. "Little bastard, just you wait. One day, I'll make you." Before he could finish speaking, a clear and moving voice that was like the sounds of nature slowly resounded. "What do you want my junior brother to do?" It was unknown when Mu Yan had already turned around, but she looked at Shui Huailu with a smile that was not a smile. "Come, say it a little louder, let me hear it." In that instant, Shui Huailu's twisted expression froze on his face. His pupils contracted violently because of fear. Jun Mayan. He almost forgot that Yap Liang Chen is Jun Mayan. Instructor Long Tang and the members of the Qilin team in the Chaotic Tower knew about it. However, because of the restrictions of the Six Stars Order, no one could reveal it. Not only could they not reveal it, but they couldn't even think of revealing it. Otherwise, they would be executed by the Six Stars Order. Chapter 2490. Mayan slowly stood up and walked towards Shui Huailu, pulling Luo Yu behind her. Luo Yu happily accepted her sixth senior sister's protection. She took out a spirit fruit and munched on it while admiring Shui Huailu's terrified expression. The two leaving Aperture Realm cultivators who were standing quietly behind Shui Huailu to protect him were baffled by Shui Huailu's fearful expression. The girl before them was only a nascent soul cultivator, and she didn't exude any killing intent. Why was the young master so afraid? Shui Huailu didn't show any fear when Murong Shui's aura and killing intent erupted. One of them hurriedly stepped forward and whispered, "Don't worry, young master. With the two of us protecting you, no one will get a chance to hurt you." Shui Huailu glared at them. "Worry? Worry my ass." He had almost forgotten that Lan Luoyu, that little bastard, was the junior of that demoness, Jun Mayan. What use were two leaving Aperture cultivators in the face of such a terrifying killer? Shui Huai had many experts by his side in the Woodfern's secret realm, but wasn't he crushed like an ant by Mayan? Even more frightening was the news from those who'd been to the Woodfern's secret realm. This Jun Mayan is valiant, vicious and merciless, but she also has a powerful backer behind her. Even the Shui family, which had lost 2 successors, didn't dare to settle the score with her. The Shui family only had 2 juniors, Shui Huailu and Shui Huai. With Shui Huai's death, Shui Huailu became the Shui family's sole heir. Even though his innate spiritual roots were mostly destroyed, the Shui family could only focus on nurturing him and his descendants. This was also why Shui Huailu dared to be so arrogant. However, he can be arrogant towards anyone, but he doesn't dare to be arrogant towards Jun Mayan. Others might fear his identity as the Shui family's successor, but she definitely wouldn't. Moreover, this demoness was definitely capable of killing him in front of everyone just because of a disagreement. Shui Huailu's lips trembled, and he squeezed out an ugly smile after a while. June. Goddess, you must be joking. How would I dare speak rudely to your junior brother? You were just joking. Luo Yu took a bite of the spirit fruit and giggled. So young Master Shui was joking with me to call me a bastard. Sure, courtesy demands reciprocity. I can't fall behind. Shui Huailu bastard. Shui Huailu bastard. Shui Huailu bastard. Shui Huailu's face contorted in anger, and smoke almost rose from the top of his head. But in the end, he gritted his teeth and endured it. When his underlings wanted to teach Luo Yu a lesson, he even gave them 2 tight slaps. Disgraceful things, get lost. Shui Huailu left dejectedly. Luo Yu happily takes Mayan's arm. 6th senior sister is mighty. Sure enough, as long as 6th senior sister was around, she could slap the face of a villain anytime and anywhere. This feeling could only be described with one word: awesome. This interlude passed quickly. In this noisy hall, it did not attract too much attention. At this time, when it was close to sea, Ling Qingwan and Lu Yu's group also arrived. Today, Ling Qingwan was wearing a gorgeous cloud gauze dress. She didn't wear a veil on her face, and she even had makeup on. Her whole person appeared flamboyant and gorgeous, but did not lose her charm. This kind of beauty was extremely impactful. Almost the moment she appeared, she attracted everyone's attention. This is immortal fairy Qingwan. Oh my god, so beautiful. Chapter 2491. Looking at it this way, this face really looks like Jun Mayan. Could it be that Qingwan Xianji is really Jun Mayan? Ha! The person accompanying Jun Qingwan seems to be someone from Ding Bei Ho's mansion. Her background doesn't seem to be small. Ling Qingwan's face is cold and arrogant, as if she doesn't listen to the noisy discussions around her. Her eyes sweep over and fall on Mu Yan, and her cold and arrogant expression instantly becomes gloomy and cold. Mu Yan looks at her face and slightly narrows her eyes. Ling Qingwan's face really changes. Now she looks at least 70 to 80% similar to herself. Moreover, there's no trace of a disguise. How did she do it? What's her purpose? Luo Yu grits her teeth. This woman is so shameless, pretending to be 6 sisters' identity, and even stealing 6 sisters' face. Shameless. Suzy, no way. Little sister is much better looking than this ugly woman. They don't look alike at all. Lan Huahong, and the oldest mother is the most beautiful. Mu Yan. She can't help but laugh at these 3 clowns. Mississippi, Chu Tianyu suddenly whispers in her ear. The one on the left of Ling Qingwan is Lu Yu, and the one on the right is Chu Xinyan's adopted son, Chu Mingkuan. On the surface, Chu Mingkuan is Chu Xinyan's adopted son, but in fact, he specializes in handling some shameful matters for Chu Xinyan. For example, looking for innocent women who can bear Chu Xinyan's children for him to absorb their lifespan. Mu Yan's eyes darken. Just as she's talking, Chu Mingkuan strides over. A pair of hawk-like eyes looks at Mu Yan up and down, as if to engrave her appearance into his mind. Then he smiles lightly, "Great God Yi, I've heard a lot about you. It's not easy to see the true face of the great god." Mu Yen leisurely drinks a cup of spirit wine. "Is that so?" This light sentence is clearly a perfunctory reply. Chu Mingquan has always been the spokesperson of Dingbei Ho. Wherever he goes, people would hold him in high regard. Being treated so coldly at this time, he can't help but frown. But this trace of displeasure is quickly hidden, and the smile on his face becomes more and more genial. "My Dinghua Manor has favored Great God Yi for a long time. Today, I, Chu Mingquan, represent the Dinghua Ho Fu to extend an invitation to Great God Yi. If Great God is willing to come to my Dinghua Ho Fu, I guarantee you will receive the highest treatment." Mayan says with a smile that isn't a smile, "I'm sorry, the people who want to hire me can line up from Xianjia to Minlujia. I don't know what kind of price the Dinghua Manor can offer." Chu Mingquan was startled and was about to speak. He then heard Mu Yen continue, "If the price can't compare to the value of the mysterious heaven bead and the medicine king's inheritance, then don't say it out loud and make a fool of yourself. After all, this was the Dinghua Marquis residence. If you don't even have this much wealth, how can you invite others?" Chu Mingquan's face froze. His fake friendliness turned into malice. "Yi Liangqin, I advise you not to do this the hard way. Do you really think you can hide in the dark forever? Since you have shown your face today, my Dinghua Manor will definitely dig you out. At that time, have you thought about the consequences of offending the Dinghua Manor?" "Mu Yen, I thought about it. So since I've already offended them, I might as well offend them a little more." The corners of her mouth gently rose, and her gaze swept over Ling Qingwan. "So, it's better to wait until I become the champion of the pill competition, and when the Dinghua Manor loses his underwear, then you can tell me about the consequences of offending the Dinghua Manor." Chapter 2492. Ling Qingwan finally couldn't bear it anymore and screamed, "Yi Liangqin, do you think you've won?" Mu Yen thought for a moment. "Based on past experience, I think it's right. Let me count. How many times has immortal fairy Qingwan run to me and hooted, only to suffer a crushing defeat and run away shamelessly? 3 times. 4 times. Or 5 times. Shut up." Ling Qingwan's eyes almost burst out. "Yi Liangqin, I'm telling you, you could only beat me in Tianguang ruins, but in reality, you'll definitely lose." Before Mu Yen could speak, Su Zi suddenly smiled. "Fairy Jun Qingwan, since you're so confident, why don't you make a bet with Great God Yi?" "Ling Qingwan, what bet?" "Bet who will be the champion of the pill competition, of course." Su Zi said innocently. "As for the bet." A cold light flashed in her clear eyes, and the tear mole under her eye was faintly discernible. "Let's bet on this face. Whoever loses will use the sky-eroding water I just obtained some time ago to destroy his or her face. It's said that whatever is destroyed by the sky-eroding water can't be restored no matter what method is used." Mu Yen couldn't help but look at Su Zi. After their reunion, this kid has been so obedient that she almost forgot that he's a black man. The loser will use the sky-eroding water to destroy his or her face. How could he think of that? Isn't he afraid of losing? Su Zi looked at her innocently. "Mrs. Invincible, how could she lose? And if she loses, I'll just secretly change the sky-eroding water to ordinary corrosive water." Mu Yen held back her laughter. This kid is really naughty. But she likes it. She's already unhappy looking at Ling Qingwan's face. It would be strange if anyone was happy looking at someone else's face. Hearing Su Zi's words, Ling Qingwan didn't expose herself, but instead sneered. "Let's bet, do you really think I'm afraid of you? But, how can your ugly face compare to my peerless beauty? If you lose, I want you to destroy your Dantian and hand over the King of Medicine's inheritance. Mu Yan raised her eyebrows. Ling Qingwan is so confident. What kind of trump card does he have? Ling Qingwan mocked. What? Don't you dare. Mu Yan shakes her head. No, I'm just counting. Including this time, how many times will you be slapped in the face? Doesn't it hurt to be slapped in public time and time again? Oh, I forgot, your skin is very thick, of course, it won't hurt. Ling Qingwan's face twisted again. But before she could even speak, a shout was heard from the Cloud Phoenix Hall's main entrance. His Majesty has arrived. The Empress has arrived. Just as the shout fell, a man and a woman dressed in dragon robes and phoenix coronets appeared on the only seat of honor in the Cloud Phoenix Hall. They were the Lan family empire's Emperor Lan Etienne and Empress Bai Wei. Just as the two of them sat down, the entire Cloud Phoenix Hall shone brightly and an invisible barrier enveloped the entire hall. This was a protective barrier, as well as a powerful formation. From the moment the protective shield was activated, the Cloud Phoenix Palace Hall prohibited the use of force, becoming a safe and stable place. This was also the Lan Clan Empire's protection for the imperial family and distinguished guests. The elixir competition will now begin. The three masters who advanced to the finals, please step forward. The eunuch beside Lan Etienne called out. Mu Yan, Ling Qingwan and Su Qingling stepped forward together and walked to the center of the hall. Chapter 2493. The three of them did not kneel down to salute, but just nodded slightly to the two people in the upper seats. Ling Qingwan proudly raised her chin, as if she was 100 times more noble than the bullshit emperor and empress. In the eyes of mortals and low-level cultivators, the emperor may be unattainable. But in fact, for powerful cultivators, the power of the emperor is nothing more than fleeting clouds. The throne and power were just fleeting clouds. Only powerful strength was worthy of respect and yearning. Therefore, Lan Etienne was not angry at the attitude of the three people. Instead, he revealed a warm smile. Gu did not expect that this year's alchemy competition's finals would be the top three masters of the coiled dragon list. Bai Wei's eyes were more focused on Mu Yan. After all, Lan Huahong was so close to Mu Yan, how could she not pay attention to him as his mother? Lan Etienne reluctantly announced the start of the alchemy competition. However, at this time, Chu Mingquan suddenly stood up. Your Majesty, before the alchemy competition begins, my Dingwa Manor has something to confirm with Dragon Soaring Academy. With that, Chu Mingquan looked at Zhou Daoyi and Chu Zongxing and smiled faintly. Dean Zhou, why don't I see Elder Kong? You can't have forgotten the bet between your Dragon Soaring Academy and my Dingwa Manor, right? Elder Kong is the person who made the bet, but he did not appear today. Do you want to go back on your word? Zhou Daoyi's eyes flashed with extreme anger. Kong Yuanzhou was forced to make a bet with Chu Xinyan, and his beloved granddaughter died in front of him. For a moment, he felt guilty and sad, so he directly chose to go into seclusion. He hoped that one day his strength could surpass Chu Xinyan, and even break through the tribulation and ascend, so that he would no longer be threatened. And this news was naturally known by the Dingwa Manor. Now that he asked in public, it was obviously to humiliate and establish his power. Chu Mingquan saw that Zhou Daoyi and Chu Zongxing were so angry that they could not speak, and the smile on his face became more and more arrogant. Elder Kong did not come, and Dean Zhou is not willing to say it, then only I can say it. Our Dingwa Manor and Dragon Soaring Academy have an agreement in advance. If Immortal Fairy Qingwan, who is supported by my Dingwa Manor, wins the first place in the alchemy competition, Dragon Soaring Academy will have to hand over the 6 Stars Pagoda and the Chaotic Tower. Dean Zhou, am I right? When these words were spoken, the expressions of everyone in the Devouring Cloud Phoenix Hall changed. Everyone in the Purple Cloud realm knew what kind of existence the six-star pagoda was. It was a holy land for nurturing and verifying young elite cultivators. The fame of the chaotic pagoda was not as high as the six stars pagoda, but those who knew of it could clearly sense that its value far surpassed the six stars pagoda. Because the chaotic pagoda was evidently a heaven-defying divine tool used to train an army. Once someone obtained the chaotic tower and had sufficient power, their final achievements would be immeasurable. In this year, it was not as if there was no one who had designs on the chaotic tower. It was just that although the chaotic tower was in the divine elephant city, Longting was only entrusted to manage it and did not have control over it. The true master of the chaotic pagoda was the artifact spirit of the six-star pagoda. It was a mysterious existence that had existed for 1,000 years, and its strength far surpassed that of a cultivator at the tribulation stage. Once the six stars token appeared, anyone who dared to covet it would die without a burial ground. This was the reason why Chu Xinyan made a bet with Longting to bring the six stars pagoda and the chaotic pagoda together. When the people present heard this bet, they instantly realized something. Chapter 2494. Especially Lan Etienne, Bai Wei, and the others, their faces were unspeakably ugly. Longting was an academy. Even if they controlled the chaotic tower, they would not use it to accumulate power and plot against the world. But if the ambitious Dingwa Manor obtained it, it would be hard to say. Zhou Daoi and Chu Zongxing trembled with anger. But this bet was made by them, and in front of everyone, they had no choice but to admit it. Now, the only thing they could hope for was for Mu Yan to win this competition. Zhou Daoi took a deep breath. Yes, we really. However, before Executive Zhou finished his words, he was interrupted by a pleasant but somewhat sarcastic female voice. There is indeed a bet, but I'm a little curious. If Longting loses, they have to hand over the six stars pagoda and the chaotic tower. If Dingwa Manor loses, what do they have to hand over? Chu Mingquan's face stiffened, almost blurting out, naturally, Dingwa Manor will no longer pursue this matter. Halfway through his words, he couldn't continue. Not pursue what? Not pursue Longting for hiding Chu Tianyu. But Chu Tianyu was a student of Longting, how could it be considered as hiding? And Chu Xinyan's coercion of Longting, it couldn't be brought up to the public. Chu Mingquan's face suddenly turned green and white. Mu Yan chuckled, I've made so many bets in my life, but I've never heard of a bet that only requires one party. Your Majesty, Dingwa Manor doing this, isn't it too unkind, too unscrupulous? Lan Etienne said in a low voice, indeed. Chu Mingquan, this is Elder Kong and Father. Mu Yan didn't wait for him to finish speaking, immediately saying, since you already know that it's unscrupulous, it's not too late to change it. I think Dingwa Manor should add a bet on the spot. What should we add? Chu Tianyu bent down and whispered a few words in Mu Yan's ear. The smile on Mu Yan's face became brighter and brighter, adding a hint of charm to her originally ordinary appearance. If Fairy Qingwan loses, Dingwa Manor will give the Heavenly Dragon City in their hands to Longting Academy. How about it? Since Longting is a little far from Heavenly Dragon City, it's inconvenient to manage it, so I'll leave it to the Lan royal family to help manage it. Lan Etienne's eyes suddenly widen as he looks at Mayan with pleasant surprise. Chu Mingquan's expression could no longer be described as ugly. He was burning with rage, and there was even a trace of fear in his eyes. Lu Yu glared at him and scolded, idiot. Celestial Dragon City was an extremely important city. It was adjacent to the southern land and was backed by the Heavenly Phoenix mountain range. It was easy to defend and difficult to attack. Moreover, it had abundant spiritual qi. Whoever obtained this city would be like obtaining a stronghold, like adding wings to a tiger. If they really lost to Sky Dragon City today, given Chu Xinyan's cruel and merciless character, he would definitely make Chu Minghuan suffer 100 times worse than death. Chu Minghuan's legs trembled at the thought of this. At this moment, he was filled with regret. Why did he deliberately step forward to humiliate Longting? In the end, he went for wool and came home shorn. Instead, he roasted himself on the fire. I can't make this decision. What's there to be afraid of? Just agree to it. Do you really think that this consort will lose to Yi Liangqin? Ling Qingwan raised her chin and proudly cut off Chu Minghuan's words. Chu Minghuan's voice was stuck in his throat, and he almost spat out a mouthful of blood. Mu Yan almost burst out laughing. She immediately made a decision. Okay, the bet is set. I ask all the elders and seniors present to testify. Chapter 2495. Lan Etienne coughs lightly. We can personally testify that the bet between Dragon Soaring Academy and Dinghua Manor is valid. Now, the pill competition officially begins. Ling Qingwan looks at Mu Yan with a cold and mocking gaze, and sneers. Yi Liangqin, do you think you've won? Do you really think I'm an idiot? If I wasn't sure, do you think I would make this bet with you? As soon as her voice falls, she raises her hand, and a silver alchemy furnace appears in front of everyone. This silver alchemy furnace is engraved with complex patterns, and there's a faint red light circulating on its surface. It's not an ordinary item at first glance. Most importantly, this alchemy furnace actually emits a faint pressure. Artifact. A master refiner exclaims and stands up abruptly. This alchemy furnace is an artifact. What? Using an artifact to refine pills, is this Qingwan crazy? Listening to the exclamations of the surrounding people, Ling Qingwan's face shows a mocking smile. A group of stupid mortals, country bumpkins who haven't seen the world. They simply don't know that in the Shushan continent, every alchemy furnace is at least an artifact level. It's just that the higher the grade of the artifact, the easier it is to be destroyed when passing through the space barrier. So now, she only has this artifact level, Xianyuan Cauldron. Ling Qingwan's gaze sharpens, and the immortal power in her dantian surges. A flame instantly appears in her palm, and she throws it into the Xianyuan Cauldron. There's clearly no elixir in the cauldron. But this flame burns fiercely inside. Moreover, the air was instantly filled with a refreshing smell. This is the legendary real Dan fire. This time, everyone is even more shocked than when they saw the artifact-level furnace. Even Su Qingling's complexion changes. There's actually someone in the Shushan continent who managed to refine a real Dan fire. Mu Yan slightly narrows her eyes, and a strange light flashes through them. She used to think that Dan fire only refers to the flame of alchemy. Later, after listening to her ninth master, she realized that it wasn't. Dan fire refers to an alchemist finding a powerful spiritual fire of heaven and earth, nourishing it with their own spiritual power and divine sense, and finally refining and absorbing it into the body to use it for alchemy. Only with this kind of alchemy fire would it have enough energy, and only then would the alchemist have enough control. In the Shushan continent, only cultivators who can control Dan fire are qualified to be called true Dan masters. Only those who had devoured and controlled their alchemic fire could refine pills above the 10th grade. It was the king elixir. Ling Qingwan looked around. Seeing everyone's shocked expression, the corner of her mouth slowly hooked up. Finally, her arrogant eyes fall on Mu Yan. Have you heard of Wang Dan? Someone was confused. What's a king pill? Someone gasped. Wang Dan. Wasn't that a pill that only existed in legends? I heard that no one in the cultivation world has ever been able to refine it successfully. Is immortal fairy Qingwan going to refine a monarch elixir? My God, if immortal fairy Qingwan can really refine king elixirs, then she'll definitely win. Ling Qingwan sneered. Yi Liangchen, I already said that I would lose to you in the Tianguang ruins because my strength was suppressed. But in the real world, you will definitely lose. After saying that, she unhesitatingly began to take out elixirs from her storage ring, and even immortal medicines, and threw them into the furnace. The finals of the elixir competition is very simple. There's no time limit, no cumbersome rules, only one. Chapter 2496. Whoever refined a pill that was more appreciated by the cultivators present would be the final winner. Looking at Leng Qingwan's skillful movements and the dazzling light emitted by the Xianyuan cauldron, Zhou Daoi's face was pale, and his body was on the verge of collapse. He turned around and exchanged glances with Vice President Chu. They both saw the despair in each other's eyes. Jun Qingwan could actually refine a King Dan. They hadn't received any news before. Now, no matter how powerful the 10th grade Dan that Mu Yan refined, how could it be compared to the King Dan? Their soaring dragon was bound to lose. Su Qingling looked at it for a while and shook her head regretfully. She took a step back and said, I can't refine a king elixir. I'm willing to withdraw from this competition. Her appearance was beautiful and her temperament was carefree and straightforward. Regardless of whether he advanced or retreated, he was confident and unruffled. Before he left, he even took out 2 bottles of wine. He tossed one bottle to Mu Yan and casually took a sip from the other bottle. Then, he smiled and said, Almighty Yi, I'm more optimistic about you as the champion of the alchemy competition. Don't lose to those pretentious, arrogant women. Mu Yan took the bottle and drank a mouthful without hesitation. She chuckled and said, How can I disappoint Master Su with a beauty's trust? Su Qingling stared blankly for a moment before laughing out loud. She liked Yap Liangchen so much. After drinking the wine, Mu Yan casually tosses the bottle aside and takes out the alchemy furnace. Her alchemy furnace was of the 9th grade, and it was the best of the 9th grade. However, compared to Leng Qingwan's profound origin cauldron, it was naturally far inferior. When they see Mu Yan first put down the elixir, and then inject her own spiritual fire, many of the people present are already shaking their heads. Zhou Daoi's eyes were red. He held his head and fell into despair. Leng Qingwan takes a moment to glance at Mayan and sneers, struggling on your deathbed, hee, then this fairy will let you die a little more understanding. As soon as she finished speaking, she suddenly mobilized the immortal energy in her body and injected it into the profound origin cauldron. In the cultivation continent, it was extremely difficult to replenish immortal energy. When immortals came to the cultivation continent, they could only use their dantian as a medium to transfer the spiritual energy in the air. This was completely different from storing and producing spiritual power in one's dantian. Using one's dantian as a transit point, one could easily absorb the barren qi in the air and cause damage to one's soul. The immortal force stored in his dantian could expel this barren qi. However, once his immortal energy was used up, there was no way to replenish it in the cultivation world. His body would be completely corroded by the desolate qi, which was extremely dangerous. Therefore, people from the Shushan continent would rarely use their immortal force when they came to the Shushan continent. But at this moment, Leng Qingwan couldn't care less. She only wanted to ruthlessly trample on Yi Liangchen, then obtain the fame and inheritance that she deserved. As immortal qi was injected into the cauldron, everyone was shocked to see a black cloud appear above the mysterious Yuan cauldron. A faint golden light flickered in the dark clouds, and from time to time, muffled sounds of thunder could be heard. Tribulation cloud. These are tribulation clouds. Ivy heard that in the cultivation continent, refining a pill above the 10th grade is equivalent to transcending the tribulation, so there will be a lightning tribulation. Oh my god, so immortal fairy Qingwan really refined a king elixir that's more powerful than a 10th grade elixir. Ling Qingwan's eyes shone brightly as she attentively looked at the alchemy cauldron, injecting her spiritual power. It was also at this time that Mayan raised her head to look at the tribulation clouds. The corners of her mouth slowly hooked up into a faintly discernible smile. At this very moment, everyone's eyes are focused on Ling Qingwan. Chapter 2497. No one noticed that Mayan, who had just been unhurriedly throwing the elixirs into the furnace, is now moving her hands faster and faster. The flames in the cauldron grew stronger and stronger. There was even a hint of an incomparably fragrant smell in the air where the flames were burning. However, after this fragrance was released, it was absorbed by the pill in the cauldron. Not even the slightest bit of it leaked out. Furthermore, no one noticed that the originally pitch-black spirit medicines within the pill furnace were beginning to emit a strange faint golden light. On the other side, Ling Qingwan's alchemy had already entered the final stage of core formation. Fine beads of sweat dripped down her forehead, and her face was deathly pale because she had consumed more than half of her immortal power but was unable to replenish it. However, her eyes were bursting with excitement and agitation. Above their heads, the rumbling thunder seemed like it would fall at any moment. As long as the core was formed, the lightning tribulation would fall and coat the surface of the elixir with a layer of heavenly Tao golden light, which meant that the king elixir had been formed. In fact, it was much easier to refine a king pill in the Shushan continent, and there was no need to go through a lightning tribulation. But at the same time, the value of a king pill that had been refined through the baptism of lightning on the Shushan continent was incomparable to any king pill on the Shushan continent. As long as this pill is out of the furnace, all these stupid mortals of the cultivation continent will all kneel at his feet. As for Yi Liangchen, that bitch whose cultivation was about to be destroyed was not qualified to be mentioned in the same breath as him. Within the Cloud Phoenix Hall, everyone's gaze fell upon Ling Qingwan's profound origin cauldron. Because it was about to form its core, the runes on the profound origin cauldron were bright red and dazzling. It was as if a precious treasure was about to be born, attracting everyone's attention. Chu Mingquan, who had been trembling with fear and uneasiness, finally relaxed. A leisurely smile appeared on his face again. Finally, the spirit herbs in the mystic origin cauldron gradually condensed into pills. 2. This cauldron actually has 2 king pills. Heavens! I haven't even gone through the lightning tribulation's baptism, but I can already feel the powerful energy emanating from this medicinal pill. Moreover, this energy is not pure spiritual power, but it makes me feel more comfortable than spiritual power. Ling Qingwan raised the corner of her mouth, as if she was swallowing clouds. He sent a strand of celestial energy into the sky and said indifferently, "Come, lightning tribulation, help me form the pill." 1 breath, 2 breaths, 3 breaths passed. However, her surroundings were quiet and there was no tribulation lightning falling. Ling Qingwan stared blankly and hurriedly raised her head to look. However, as soon as she looked, she was immediately dumbfounded. Gone. The tribulation cloud that was floating above her head just now had actually disappeared. Rumble. A thunderous sound came from not far away from her. Ling Qingwan abruptly turned his head to look, and then saw an unbelievable scene. When did the tribulation cloud appear above Yap Liangchen's head? Moreover, the golden light hidden in the tribulation clouds was even brighter than before. What Ling Qingwan heard was a rumbling sound. It was the sound of the first bolt of tribulation lightning striking the grade 9 furnace. The people from the Cloud Phoenix Palace were all dumbfounded. What is going on? Why was Jun Qingwan's tribulation over, but Yi Liangchen's pill was undergoing tribulation? Wasn't it Jun Qingwan who refined the king pill? No. The problem is, Yi Liangchen didn't use a real alchemy fire, so how could he refine the king pill? How could he attract the tribulation lightning? Chapter 2498. Suddenly, there's a weak voice. I just saw the tribulation cloud above Jun Qingwan go to Ye Liangkan's side. Shit. Is this even possible? This is the roaring thought in everyone's mind at this time. Without Dan Fire, it's impossible to refine a real king pill, and naturally, it can't attract the lightning tribulation. Therefore, when almost everyone knows that Ling Qingwan can refine a king pill, they think that Ye Liangkan will lose. Because everyone knows that Ye Liangkan can use spiritual fire, and her spiritual fire's purity is very high. Ordinary alchemy cauldrons below the 8th level can't withstand it. That's why, during the competition at Tianguang Ruins, furnaces exploded one after another. But no matter how pure the spiritual fire is, it's still spiritual fire, not Dan fire. It can't attract the lightning tribulation. However, great god Ye Liangkan doesn't play cards according to common sense. Without Dan fire, you can't attract the lightning tribulation. Then I'll just snatch the lightning tribulation that others attract. The key point is that she really fucking snatched the lightning tribulation. Before this, who had ever heard that the thunder tribulation could be fucking snatched from others? Many people don't even know that in the Shuzhen continent, one has to go through the lightning tribulation to refine a king pill. Of course, the one who can't accept this scene the most is not the onlookers. It's Ling Qingwan. She's going crazy. Impossible. This is impossible. That's my lightning tribulation, mine. How could it be snatched by a slut like you? Boom. Another lightning tribulation falls. Mayan quickly infuses the spiritual power in her body with a trace of immortal power into the alchemy cauldron. The 9th rank alchemy cauldron creaks, as if it will break at any time. But because of the infusion of Mayan's spiritual power, it finally holds up. The next moment, the entire Cloud Phoenix Hall is filled with a refreshing fragrance. Lan Etienne, who is sitting on the main seat, takes a deep breath and his face changes. He feels that his cultivation, which has been shackled for a long time, is faintly showing signs of loosening. What elixir is this? It has such an effect just by smelling it. What if it's taken? The falling lightning tribulation raises a dust cloud. When the dust cloud dissipates, everyone pokes their heads to look. He saw that there were 3 pills in the already tottering grade 9 cauldron. Every single one of them emitted a strong fragrance of energy that could make one go crazy. Each of them had a faint golden pattern on their surface. This is a king pill. Someone exclaimed. This really is a king pill. So, it is possible to refine a king pill without Dan fire. Hee, that's God ye, alright. If it were you, why don't you try snatching a thunder tribulation? Zhou Daoyi and Chu Zongxing came over to take a look. At that time, they felt dizzy and almost couldn't believe it was real. Jun Mayan snatched Ling Qingwan's thunder tribulation and refined it into a real king pill, so their Long Ting won. Was this a miracle? Was there light at the end of the tunnel? The 1,000-year foundation of the soaring dragon could finally be preserved. For a moment, Zhou Daoyi and Chu Zongxing couldn't describe their feelings, but their eyes were already red. At this moment, their admiration and gratitude towards Mu Yan have reached the extreme. He felt that only such a woman was worthy of that most honorable person. But Chu Mingquan and Lu Yu were the complete opposite of Zhou Daoyi and the others. The thunder tribulation was snatched, and Ling Qingwan failed to refine a king pill. It was simply like a bolt from the blue, beating them silly. Lost? The Dingwa Manor lost. No. How could this be? How could this be? Chapter 2499. If they not only fail to win back the 6 Stars Pagoda and the Chaotic Tower, but instead lose the Heavenly Dragon City, one can imagine what kind of fate they will have when they return. In a split second, the two look at Ling Qingwan with eyes full of hatred. At this time, Ling Qingwan has completely forgotten about the bet she made. Watching the third lightning strike, the fragrance of the elixir that Mayan refined becomes stronger, and the golden patterns become more dazzling. Ling Qingwan couldn't bear it anymore. She suddenly pulls out a dagger, roars, and pounces towards Mayan. "Slut, you dare to steal my lightning tribulation. I want your dog life." The dagger in her hand exudes a dark green light. As soon as the dagger appears, the surrounding temperature seems to drop a lot, giving people an incomparably gloomy feeling. Mayan recognizes it at a glance. This is the soul-imprisoning dagger that Ling Qingwan wanted to kill her in the Yinwu continent. Compared to the soul-imprisoning dagger that Ling Qingwan used as a temporary body, this one is of a much higher level, and much more sinister. The corner of Mayan's mouth slightly hooks up, revealing an awe-inspiring smile. Very good. This time, she is 100% sure that this Ling Qingwan in front of her is the woman who tried to kill her and Xiao Bao, and also caused the death of Changyu. Then, let's settle old and new accounts together. Sixth sister, be careful. Big sister, get out of the way. Seeing this scene, Luo Yu and Su Zi are so scared that their hearts are about to jump out. Anyone can see that there's something strange about that dagger. However, just as they get up and want to rush over, they are stunned by the scene in front of them. When Ling Qingwan rushes over, Mayan suddenly turns her hand over, and there's a fluffy little yellow chick in her palm. The little chick is still in a daze. When it was pulled out, it staggers and stands up in Mayan's palm. There's an ahog on the top of its head, swaying back and forth. It's indescribably cute. Its big round eyes slowly widen. The little chick's sleepy eyes finally see its beloved mother, and it immediately chirps happily. However, just as its short legs step out, it steps on the edge of Mayan's palm and falls down. Two bubbles of tears suddenly appear in its big eyes. Mu Yan only has time to gently stroke the silly chick's head, and Ling Qingwan's attack has already arrived. She dodged to the side. The dagger flashed with a green light as it brushed past her ear. How could Ling Qingwan be willing to give up? She turned around and attacked Mu Yan in a frenzy. The remaining earth immortal power in her body poured out without hesitation. She wanted Yap Liangqin dead. She wanted this slut to die without a burial. This time, Mu Yan didn't dodge the devourer. Instead, he raised his hand and the seven absolute sword appeared in an instant. A sound came from the air, and the soul-binding dagger was blocked. Ling Qingwan stared blankly. This soul-binding dagger is a heavenly god artifact. How could it be blocked? However, before she could see what was blocking her, a white light flashed in front of her. The seven absolute sword disappeared. At the same time, Mu Yan, who had used stunning lotus step by step, also disappeared. Ling Qingwan immediately lost her balance and staggered forward, crashing straight into the alchemy furnace. At the same time, the last bolt of lightning fell. The 9th grade alchemy furnace, which was already on the verge of collapse, let out an ear-piercing crackling sound. Finally, it shattered with a bang. Ah! How could this be? This alchemy furnace is too weak. It can't withstand the lightning tribulation at all. Could it be that the refining of the king elixir failed just like that? However, just when everyone was shocked and disappointed. Chapter 2500. Ling Qingwan, who had just hit the furnace, lets out a mournful shriek. Sizzle. The sound of flesh being scorched is accompanied by a burning smell, filling the entire Cloud Phoenix Hall. Everyone looks at the scene in front of them, dumbfounded and speechless. In this strange silence, Mayan leisurely walks forward, picks up 3 glittering golden elixirs from the ground, and says with a smile, Fairy Qingwan is really kind and charitable. I was originally thinking what to do if the 9th rank furnace couldn't withstand all the lightning tribulations. It's not impossible to block the last lightning tribulation with one's flesh and blood, but it would be very painful. I was hesitating whether or not to do it. I didn't expect that Fairy Qingwan would be anxious and bear this lightning tribulation for me. She gently turns the golden elixir in her hand. I really have to thank Fairy Qingwan for being able to refine a king elixir. Pfft. Ling Qingwan, who is lying on the ground after being struck by the lightning, and her back is still charred, finally can't bear it and spits out a mouthful of blood. Mayan gently throws one of the king elixirs into a golden cauldron in the center of the Cloud Phoenix Hall, and slowly says, "Your Majesty, may I ask if you can announce the results of the pill competition?" In the dead silence, the girl's voice is particularly crisp and sweet. But it's also like the evening drum and morning bell, ruthlessly striking everyone's ears. Lan Etienne suddenly comes back to his senses, suppressing the ecstasy in his heart, and loudly says, "We hereby announce that the pill competition is over, and the champion this time is Yi Liangqin. I refuse to accept this." Ling Qingwan roars, crawling up from the ground. Her blood-red eyes stare at Mayan with bone-piercing hatred. The one who refined the king elixir should be me. The winner should be me. It was you, slut, who cheated and stole my tribulation cloud. I am the real champion. But why? Why can you steal my tribulation cloud? Why? Mayan sneers, gently stroking the little chick's head. "Immortal Fairy Qingwan, what you need to consider now is not how I stole your tribulation cloud, but how you and North Ding Ho Mansion should fulfill the bet." She raised her head and looked at Ling Qingwan's distorted but still beautiful face. She sneered, "Immortal Fairy Qingwan, you couldn't have forgotten the contents of the bet, right? Immortal Fairy, don't forget that I can remind you." Su Zi chuckled. "If Immortal Fairy Qingwan loses, you have to destroy your own appearance. I've already prepared the heaven-eroding water. Immortal Fairy Qingwan, don't go back on your word." Su Zi took out the heaven-eroding water and threw it to one of his guards. The guard was an old man at the pinnacle of the astral body realm. Upon receiving the order, he immediately took the heaven-eroding water and walked towards Ling Qingwan. Ling Qingwan's expression changed greatly as she screamed, "You dare! Do you know who I am? I am an immortal from the Shushan continent. What qualifications do you lowly mortals have to judge me? What qualifications do you have to make me fulfill the bet? This Empress disdains to play with you bunch of trash anymore." Saying that, she turned around and rushed towards the door without hesitation. The Cloud Phoenix Hall had a barrier, but to an immortal like her, this bit of barrier was really nothing. However, just as she rushed to the door, Ling Qingwan felt her vision go black. Her whole body heavily crashed into a wall of flesh and bounced back. "Who is it? You dared to trespass into the Imperial Palace." Lan Etienne immediately sensed that someone had entered the Cloud Phoenix Hall's barrier and couldn't help but shout. Just then, Mayan heard a familiar voice. Chapter 2501. Tisk, June Shang should be talking about this place, right? Miss June. Why are you here? What are you doing here? At the same time, this question also resounds in Mayan's mind. She looked in astonishment at the man who had just walked in from the entrance of the Cloud Phoenix Hall. It was actually Star Wolf. What was this fellow doing here? Wait a minute. Mu Yen suddenly remembered that before she had come to participate in the pill competition, her 9th master had said that he would have someone support him. It should be the flowery peacock that 9th Shifu particularly disliked and always talked about. Could Star Wolf be the flower peacock that 9th master mentioned? No. With Star Wolf's appearance, was he worthy of the title of flower peacock? She must be mistaken. Ninth master is cultivating to the level of devouring. How could it be so easy to get someone to come down from the immortal continent to help her? What was Star Wolf doing here? Just as she's thinking, Mayan sees Xing Lang striding towards Ling Qingwan. He helps her up and nervously asks, "Miss June, what's wrong? Who hurt you?" When he said the last sentence, there was an obvious killing intent in his tone. However, Mu Yan almost spat out a mouthful of blood. This idiot Xing Lang actually thought that Ling Qingwan was her. Not only was there something wrong with this idiot's brain, but he was also blind. Ling Qingwan, who originally wanted to flee, also recognized one of Di Ming's trusted subordinates, Star Wolf. She felt a burst of excitement in her heart. She rolled her eyes and tears immediately welled up in her eyes. Star Wolf, I thought that I would never be able to see Monarch again. When Xing Lang saw the pitiful and tearful June Mayan, he did not feel distressed or worried. Instead, he shuddered all over. Goosebumps rose all over his body. The female demon was crying. She was actually shedding tears. She actually calls June Shang Di June. What was going on? Is June Mayan's brain broken, or? Xing Lang takes a step back, vigilantly saying, "June Mayan, are you going to mess with me again? I'm warning you. Even if I, Star Wolf, die, I will absolutely not wear female clothes again." Mu Yan. What kind of image does she have in Xinglang's heart? Ling Qingwan's pitiful crying face also froze. Gritting his teeth, he cursed the Star Wolf half to death. However, on the surface, he could only force himself to remain calm. Star Wolf, where's the monarch? Star Wolf frowned and looked at Ling Qingwan suspiciously and vigilantly. Didn't say anything. Ling Qingwan gritted her teeth, but the crying on her face became even more sorrowful. Xing Lang, you clearly know my identity. Could it be that you want to watch this group of people bully and humiliate me with your own eyes? The injuries on my body were all inflicted by these bitches. Furthermore, these people wanted to ruin my appearance and harm me. Have you forgotten? I'm the Emperor Lord's fiancé. Could it be that you want to watch the Polar Domain's mistress suffer such humiliation? Hearing this, Star Wolf immediately cast aside the doubts in his heart. No matter what tricks the demoness was playing, she was still the future mistress of the Polar Domain. How could they allow others to bully them? Xing Lang sneered and said in a deep voice, "Speak, who was it that humiliated Miss June earlier? Step out yourself and I'll give you a quick death." Is that so? Mu Yan unhurriedly walked up, the corners of her mouth hooked up in a mocking arc as she looked at Star Wolf. "I really want to see how you're going to give me a quick death." Star Wolf stared blankly. This person's appearance and temperament, why does he have a familiar feeling? You are. Chapter 2502. Ling Qingwan pretends to be pitiful and doesn't speak, but she gives Lu Yu a look. Lu Yu guessed that Xing Lang's identity and strength isn't simple, so he immediately steps forward and says, reporting to this immortal, "This person is called Yi Liangqin. These days, he has been bullying and humiliating Miss June." Xing Lang suddenly widens his eyes and stares at Mayan in disbelief, then turns to look at Ling Qingwan. Dumbfounded. Yi Liangqin. That's not right, isn't that the female devil's alias in Tianguang ruins? Or did he remember it wrong? Could it be that the female devil's alias in Tianguang ruins wasn't Yi Liangqin? What was it called again? Xing Lang is in a mess. Ling Qingwan can't bear it anymore. Since the beginning of the pill competition, she has always been rubbed against by Yi Liangqin. This slut slaps her face again and again, and her patience has reached its limit. Thinking of Yi Liangqin's frightening talent in alchemy, endless jealousy, and panic rises in her heart. Ling Qingwan feels that she can't let Yi Liangqin stay. As long as Yi Liangqin is alive, whether it's her reputation, status, or schemes, they will all become bubbles. Ling Qingwan steps forward and sternly says, Xing Lang, what are you hesitating for? I told you to kill this slut, didn't you hear me? Xing Lang tightly frowns and suspiciously looks at the woman in front of him. Are you really June Mayan? This face is indeed very beautiful. Even in the Shushan continent, where there is an immortal atmosphere, it's very rare to see such a stunning appearance. But Xing Lang feels that something isn't quite right. Does the female devil look like this? It's all his fault that he either hated June Mayan or feared the female devil, so he didn't look at the future mistress of the polar domain carefully. For a moment, he can't judge with his naked eyes. Ling Qingwan panics and raises her voice. Xing Lang, what do you mean by that? Are you doubting my identity? Luo Yu sneers. Your fake identity has been exposed several times, is there still a need to doubt it? As soon as this is said, the others in the Cloud Phoenix Hall also whispers. I also remember that this June Qingwan has been exposed as a fake, right? Then is she June Mayan or not? Ling Qingwan knew that Luo Yu had followed Yap Liangqin here and her heart was filled with hatred towards these people. Her cold gaze sweeps over everyone present, and finally falls on Xing Lang. She does her utmost to release her pressure and imposing manner. Xing Lang, you have to think clearly. If I'm not June Mayan, then who am I? Is there anyone else in this world who looks like me? Immediately, Ling Qingwan's sharp gaze turns towards Mayan. You're saying that I'm an imposter. Then I would like to ask, where is the real June Mayan? If you have the ability, then let your so-called Supreme Mayan come out and confront me. Luo Yu gritted her teeth and spat. This stupid imposter was just relying on the fact that his sick sister didn't want to expose Yi Liangqin's identity. How shameless! Seeing that Mayan and Luo Yu are silent, the smile on Ling Qingwan's face becomes more and more complacent. What? Can't find it. What right do you have to say that I'm a fake? Her gaze falls on Xing Lang again. At this time, the delicate and pitiful look on her face has already disappeared, replaced by an aloof arrogance and overbearingness. Xing Lang, don't forget what your identity is, and what my identity is. If you dare to disobey my orders, do you believe that I won't let Monarch expel you from the polar domain immediately? Chapter 2503. Star Wolf was speechless for a moment. What he feared the most was being expelled from the polar domain and not being able to serve by Emperor's side. And he had offended Mayan in too many ways, fearing that Mayan would find him to settle accounts. Ling Qingwan saw the fear that flashed in Star Wolf's eyes and became increasingly arrogant. Pointing at Mayan, she said, "Kill this slut for me right now. I can consider it as atonement for your crimes and allow you to continue staying in the polar domain." Star Wolf's brows tightly wrinkled, momentarily in a dilemma. Everyone in the Cloud Phoenix Hall was confused, not understanding what was going on. Everyone didn't recognize Star Wolf, only knowing that his cultivation was extremely high, so high that even the peak of leaving body stage present couldn't fathom his actual strength. Moreover, the words polar domain and monarch in his conversation with Ling Qingwan caused everyone to scratch their heads in confusion. Only Zhou Daoyi and the others could vaguely guess the identity of the person who came. They stepped forward and blocked in front of Mayan, saying anxiously, "This immortal, you must not harm June. Miss Yi, otherwise it will be too late for regrets." Oh my, he was really worried to death. If Miss June still refused to reveal her identity, wouldn't that bullshit immortal fairy's plot succeed? Lu Yu laughed cruelly at the side. "Principal Zhou, in order to win the pill competition, your Longting Academy and this Yi Liangqin really stopped at nothing." Longting's background was deep, using despicable means to deceive and humiliate. "Miss June, we dared not say anything, but now the person supporting Miss June has come." Zhou Daoyi, you still dare to stop the immortal from standing up for Miss June, hehe, really arrogant and despotic, not putting the immortal in his eyes. Chu Mingquan immediately said, Immortal, these few bastards really bullied Miss June, you must kill them and take revenge for Miss June. Zhou Daoyi was so angry that he fell down, he had never seen such a shameless person. And this wolf, he was obviously the confidant of Emperor, how could he be so stupid? At this point, who was the real master? He still couldn't recognize her. Zhou Daoyi was full of bitterness and grievance, he could only look at Mayan. He can only hope that Mu Yan can quickly remove the disguise and ruthlessly slap this impostor's face. The corner of Mu Yan's mouth hooks up into a cold arc, but she doesn't say anything. It seems like the time he sent the star wolf to, drunk life dreaming death, was not long enough, the lesson he received was not enough. This guy was itching for a beating again. Star Wolf had already walked in front of her and said in a deep voice, Who exactly are you? At such a close distance, he can see the disguise on Mu Yan's face. He can't help but lower his voice, Show me your true face. Mayan sneers, You want me to show my true face? Sorry, who do you think you are? Xing Lang's face stiffened. This familiar tone of disdain and indolent disdain made his heart churn. In the next moment, he heard Mu Yan's unhurried but somewhat malicious voice, Looks like the last time you were drunk and dreaming didn't teach you enough of a lesson. Star Wolf suddenly opened his eyes wide, his body trembling uncontrollably. He almost blurted out, How did you know? No, you are. Before he could finish speaking, suddenly, the entire Cloud Phoenix Hall slightly shook. Lan Etienne was first startled, feeling that the barrier was invaded by a powerful energy. But this time, before he could speak, a terrible pressure instantly enveloped the entire Cloud Phoenix Hall. Chapter 2504. In an instant, the originally noisy hall fell into absolute silence. Everyone was dumbfounded as they stared at the entrance. Looking at the man who walked in, they could only exclaim in their hearts, Holy shit! How could there be such a handsome man in this world? The man who had appeared at the entrance was as handsome as jade, unparalleled in elegance. His handsome facial features were as if they were sculpted by the gods, and there wasn't the slightest flaw to be found on him. The so-called dragon and phoenix appearance, natural unnatural. After the exclamation, there was a kind of fear and submission from the bottom of their hearts. Almost everyone unconsciously stood up and lowered their eyes. Their hearts were thumping non-stop and their faces were burning hot, but they didn't even have the courage to look up again. Even Lan Etienne and Bai Wei unconsciously stood up, shocked and aghast at the man who was slowly walking in. At this moment, they only felt that this man was the Real Supreme King. What Lan Empire's royal family, in front of him, was nothing. And Zhou Daoyi and Chu Zongsheng, who knew the man's identity, had already knelt down with a thud. The greetings to the Emperor, was already at their throats, but they swallowed it back. Emperor. Ling Qingwan's eyes suddenly welled up with tears. Her eyes were infatuated and delicate as she looked at the man who walked in, her delicate body trembling slightly. Emperor, Mayan finally sees you again. She looked like a little woman who had been wronged and couldn't help but vent and seek comfort and protection from her lover. It also made the people of the Cloud Phoenix Hall feel indescribable shock. Who was this mysterious man who suddenly appeared? What was his relationship with Jun Qingwan? Could it be that he really came to support Jun Qingwan? Many of Yi Liangchen's supporters couldn't help but clench their fists, their hearts breaking out in cold sweat for their idol. Because this mysterious man's strength was too strong. He was so strong that without knowing his cultivation level, without needing him to use any spells, everyone could feel the overwhelming gap. And the shock in Mayan's heart was no less than the others. Her gaze fell on Di Ming, and she blinked again and again. Divine imprint. From Di Ming's body, she actually felt the imprint of her ninth master's divine imprint. So, the shameless peacock that attracted bees and butterflies was Di Ming. While he was still in shock, he heard Ling Qingwan say those nauseating words. Instantly, his face turned ashen, and a sea of jealousy surged. Devour when he saw that the woman was looking at Di Ming with a face that was similar to his own, he became even angrier. The joy of reuniting after such a long time had been replaced by anger. Mu Yan suddenly stops herself from hugging Di Ming and sneers coldly. She recalled that she was now disguised as Yap Liangqin. She wants to see if Di Ming will mistake Ling Qingwan for Jun Mayan like Xing Lang if she doesn't go up to acknowledge him. If he really dared to make a mistake. Mayan clenched her fists so tightly that they creaked. In her mind, she was already calculating what other spiritual fruits were suitable for kneeling besides the golden Bodhi fruit. Just as he was thinking about this, the man turned around and his gaze fell on Mu Yan. Almost at the same time, Mu Yan feels that in her sea of consciousness, the divine sense imprint that her master left behind is faintly heating up. She knew that Di Ming was also activating his soul consciousness to find the Medicine King's successor. Their gazes met. The man stared blankly for a moment, then a scorching flame suddenly ignited in the depths of his ice-blue eyes. Chapter 2505. It feels like he's going to swallow her up. Mu Yan takes a step back subconsciously. Then, she quickly stabilizes her body. Don't panic. Her current appearance is Yi Liangqin. And because Di Ming can't enter Tianguang ruins, he has never seen her appearance. So, he shouldn't know that she is Jun Mayan, right? Yes, he definitely can't swallow her. He knows. While she is thinking about it, Di Ming has already strode in front of her, bent down and whispered in her ear. The man's unique breath is blowing in her ear, bringing a warm feeling that makes her blush and her heart beat faster. Mu Yan's legs soften. She almost thinks that she will hear Yen Yen next. Who knows, the man gently spits out 3 words in her ear, Han Chuzhou's apprentice. Mu Yan immediately calms down. Sure enough, Di Ming really came to support Jiu Shifu's apprentice. So, he didn't recognize her. Mu Yan is very glad at this time. The disguise on her face makes people unable to see the change of her mood. But when she thinks that Di Ming can't recognize her, Mu Yan inexplicably feels stifled. This bastard, I just changed my appearance. He actually can't recognize me. Could it be that she would mistake Ling Qingwan for Jun Mayan? Thinking of this possibility, she can't keep a straight face. Because she is too emotional, Mu Yan doesn't notice that the man standing next to her is looking at her. His eyes are full of tenderness. The corner of his mouth gently hooks up into a shallow smile. But Ling Qingwan can't accept it more than Mu Yan. Her pair of beautiful eyes are full of tears. She looks at Di Ming for a long time and speaks to him affectionately and pitifully. But Di Ming doesn't even look at her. He goes to Yi Liangqin, that bitch. And he speaks so intimately to Mu Yan's ear. What does that bitch have? Why? With such an ugly and ordinary face, how can she seduce Di Jun? How can she steal my limelight? Di Jun. Ling Qingwan shouts, Di Jun, what are you doing? I am Jun Mayan, your fiancé. Why don't you look at me, but at other women? Her words finally attract Di Ming's attention. His unperturbed gaze falls on Ling Qingwan's face. When he sees that face that is 70% similar to Mayan's, his blue eyes instantly became as cold as ice, bursting forth with a bone-piercing chill. However, this chill was instantly restrained. Unhurriedly, you said you're Jun Mayan. Yes, I'm Jun Mayan. Ling Qingwan finally let Di Ming look at her. Her face is flushed with excitement. She fiddled with her hair, trying to make her face look flawless. Thinking of how much Di Ming doted on that slut June Mayan, the relationship between the two might not be ordinary. Yes, I really miss you. I really miss you. Ling Qingwan called out the most affectionate form of address. She took a step forward and was about to throw herself into Di Ming's arms. The affection in her eyes was almost overflowing. However, in the next moment, her entire body was sent flying. She crashed heavily onto the ground and spat out a mouthful of blood. No one noticed when Ling Qingwan was sent flying backwards. A ray of faint blue light, with lightning speed, entered Ling Qingwan's body and disappeared without a trace. Ling Qingwan struggled to get up, she couldn't believe what had just happened. Lu Yu and Chu Mingquan were even more dumbfounded. They had just guessed that this person who was called Di Jun must have come from the Shushan continent. Moreover, even in the Shushan continent, his identity must be extraordinary. Chapter 2506. If Jun Qingwan is really this Di Jun's fiancé, then the benefits that North Ding Ho Manor can obtain would be immeasurable. And they also believe that no man in the world would be able to refuse a peerless beauty like Jun Qingwan throwing herself into his arms. However, to their surprise, not to mention accepting the embrace, Di Mingju directly kicks the person out without any tender feelings for the fairer sex. After kicking her, he turns to look at Mayan, and uses his deep magnetic voice to slowly say, "Is it enough to support you?" Mayan, so he really came to support Ninth Master's disciple. If it's still not enough. Di Mingju steps towards Mayan. Mayan subconsciously steps back, but before she can take 2 steps back, she's already against the pillar of the Cloud Phoenix Hall. There's nowhere to retreat. The man's figure and the familiar aura, with a strong aggressiveness, completely surround her. His slender fingers pressed against the pillar, blocking her from moving sideways to avoid it. If it's still not enough, Ben Jun can still do a little more, a little better. From the side, it looks like a tall and handsome man is gently caressing a young girl's soft cheeks. That posture was indescribably ambiguous. The Cloud Phoenix Hall is completely silent. Everyone's eyes widen, their mouths open as they watch this scene. Their hearts are in turmoil. Fuck, fuck, fuck. It turns out that this godlike handsome man isn't Jun Qingwan's fiancé, but has an affair with great god Yi. Ling Qingwan, who has just recovered from the pain of her broken ribs and sees this scene in front of her, simply goes crazy. Di Jun, what are you doing? I'm Jun Mayan, I'm your fiancé. She screams and pounces over, wanting to hug Di Mingju. Di Jun, look at me, look at my stunning appearance. How can this ugly slut compare to me? This time, Ling Qingwan finally rushes in front of Di Mingju. The pear blossom's tear-stained face is raised high, looking at Di Mingju with infatuation and longing. In fact, Ling Qingwan isn't clear about the extent of the relationship between Di Mingju and Jun Mayan. Therefore, she doesn't dare to keep saying, "I am Jun Mayan," to provoke Di Mingju. She's afraid that when Di Mingju learns that Jun Mayan was killed by Leng Yuexia, he would fly into a terrible rage and vent his anger on her. But Ling Qingwan has always believed that the reason why Jun Mayan could attract Di Mingju is because of her face. As long as she has Jun Mayan's face, as long as Di Jun looks at her, he will be completely attracted to her. And this time, Di Mingju can finally see her face up close. Ling Qingwan was so excited that she even blinked her eyes, revealing what she thought was her most charming expression. However, in the next moment, the man's cold voice was heard saying slowly, "You're the one who bullied my fiancé in Tianguang ruins. Is Binjuan's fiancé someone you can bully as you please?" As he spoke, he placed his hand on Mayan's shoulder and pressed her directly into his embrace. Mu Yan jerks her head to look at him. Did this guy recognize her? Di Mingju's face shows a faintly discernible smile. He slightly bends down, his thin lips close to her ear, and hoarsely says, "Didn't your master ask Benjun to pretend to be your fiancé?" Yen. Miss Yi, don't take offense. Before Mayan could react, Ling Qingwan has already screamed in disbelief, "Impossible. How could this ugly freak be your fiancé? This is absolutely impossible." Chapter 2507. During this period of time, Ling Qingwan has experienced being abandoned by the polar domain, Tianyi men being destroyed, and living under someone else's roof. Her life is worse than a dog's. She thought that when she came to the Shuzhen continent, she could be high and mighty, casually stepping on mortals and ants, and receive everyone's amazement and worship. She didn't expect to be stepped on by this woman called Yi Liangchen again and again, humiliated and slapped in the face. Falling from the high clouds to the dust. She has experienced this kind of terrible torture and blow again and again. What high and mighty fairy's demeanor, what Tianyi men's young master's majesty, they have long been used up. Her spirit has long been on the verge of collapse. His only hope was the magnificent quicksand, a face that resembled Jun Mayan. From seeing Di Jun, to devouring him. Then, she can get Di Jun's favor, and from then on, she can step on everyone. However, reality once again gives her a hard slap in the face. Di Ming would rather hug Yi Liangchen, the ugly monster, than take another look at her. Why? Why? Isn't she beautiful enough? Isn't her status higher than that ugly monster? She finally got rid of Jun Mayan, that bitch. Why does Yi Liangchen come out? It would be good if there were no such bitches. Di Jun's eyes would fall on her, and he would be infatuated with her. Yes, as long as there is no Yi Liangchen, Di Jun will definitely like her. Ling Qingwan's eyes burst out with twisted and ferocious hatred, and she madly rushes towards Mayan. The soul-binding dagger in her hand emits an eerie green light. Seeing her rushing over, Mayan sneers and is about to take out the 7 absolute swords. However, the next moment, her whole body has been tightly embraced into a familiar embrace. How can I trouble madam with this matter? Ben Jun will do it. As soon as the voice falls, Mayan hears Ling Qingwan scream. Ling Qingwan was sent flying backwards and crashed into a desk. She only had a few broken ribs before. But this time, she almost can't even stand up. She suddenly spits out several mouthfuls of blood. Her face and body were also covered with overturned dishes and wine. Her originally stunning appearance instantly became embarrassing and laughable. Ling Qingwan's body keeps twitching, and her ears are buzzing. She didn't believe it. She didn't believe that with such a beautiful face, the emperor would still treat her like this. Body, yes. She wanted to display her beautiful body in front of the emperor. The emperor would definitely be head over heels for her. Just as she was about to get up, she suddenly heard a clear and melodious voice of a youth above her. "I've finally found an opportunity. Immortal fairy Qingwan, you wouldn't have forgotten the bet you made with Great God Yi before the medicinal pill competition, right? The loser will have to use the sky-eroding water to disfigure himself." Ling Qingwan raised her head in horror and saw a youth holding a brown bottle looking down at her from above. A cute and obedient smile appeared on his handsome face. The mole under her left eye flickered slightly, exuding a sense of charm. Ling Qingwan opened her mouth wide, wanting to scream, wanting to escape. However, not a single sound came out of her mouth. Her entire body was sore and powerless, unable to move at all. She could only watch as the brown bottle tipped over slightly. The colorless, odorless liquid flowed out and splashed onto her face. "Aw, aw, 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 aw." The smell of burnt flesh, accompanied by severe pain, made Ling Qingwan let out a heart-wrenching scream. Chapter 2508. Everyone in the Cloud Phoenix Hall had witnessed it with their own eyes, an incomparably beautiful face. How did his face become so full of potholes that even ghosts would feel disgusted at the sight of it? He looked at Su Zi with fear in his eyes. Many people knew that the Su family's young master had a heart disease. Those who had met him all said that his aptitude was excellent, but it was a pity that he couldn't cultivate. His heart was pure and kind, but he was too weak and easy to bully. Later, there was another rumor that the young master's heart disease had been cured, and the entire Su family was wild with joy. Old Master Su even declared that he would hand over the Su family to his grandson. Everyone thought that Old Master Su had gone mad. The entire Su family had gone mad. How could they allow a weak young master who had been raised in an ivory tower to inherit the Su family? Wasn't this just waiting for the Su family to be defeated and destroyed in 100 years? However, at this moment, when they saw Su Zi's smile and unhesitant action of ruining Ling Qingwan's face, everyone shuddered. Damn it, who said that the Su family's young master was easy to bully? Wasn't he lying through his teeth? After ruining Ling Qingwan's face, Su Zi finally felt completely at ease. From the moment he saw this bitch come out with the face of a young lady, he couldn't stand it anymore. He wanted to rush over and tear off this face. Su Zi retracted the heaven-eroding water and rushed to Mu Yan happily, wanting to hug her arm to claim credit. Little Goddess Yi, I've finally destroyed this woman's mask. Are you happy? However, before he could get close, he met God's cold gaze of death. Does this monarch's fiancé need your protection? Of course, Su Zi knew Di Ming, and he also knew that this mentor Mo was the fiancé of Little Missy. Hearing this, he couldn't help but shrink his neck and was about to retreat. Unexpectedly, Mu Yan pushes Di Ming away and slowly walks up to him. She touches his head and says, "Well done. It's to my liking." Su Zi. His listless handsome face immediately blossomed like a flower, and he smiled foolishly. If he had a tail, it would probably be wagging at this moment. Mu Yan doesn't look at Jun Shangdaren's face that is as black as the bottom of a pot. Slowly walking to the front of Ling Qingwan who was covering her face, he looked down at her and said coldly, "Why don't you tell me? In the end, how did you manage to make your appearance resemble mine's?" "No. It wasn't similar. I am Jun Mayan. I am the Emperor's fiancée, the future mistress of the polar domain. I am Jun Mayan, ha 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 ha." Ling Qingwan let out a maniacal laugh. "Do you think that the sky-eroding water can ruin my peerless beauty? No way, no way. I won't allow it." As she shouted, she took out a bunch of pills from her storage ring and stuffed them into her mouth. At the same time, the last bit of immortal qi in his dantian was released. She had nothing left. Only this face, she must protect. The sky-eroding water was indeed powerful, but at the end of the day, it was only an item from the cultivation continent. Under the situation where Ling Qingwan didn't hesitate to use all of the immortal qi in her body to activate the medicine's effects, her uneven and ugly face actually began to regain its smoothness. Ha, ha ha ha. I knew it, I knew that no one could ruin my peerless beauty. I am Jun Mayan, I am Jun Mayan's most beloved woman, the future mistress of the polar domain. Ha 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 ha. However, halfway through her laughter, Ling Qingwan couldn't continue laughing. Because she discovered that everyone's eyes were firmly fixed on her. Everyone's faces were showing a mixture of shock, strangeness, and ridicule. Chapter 2509. The dust settles. Soon after, the whispers of the crowd reached Ling Qingwan's ears. The face that was ruined by the heaven-eroding water can actually be restored. No, wait, why is this face different from just now? Although it can be considered somewhat good-looking, it's clearly completely different from Great God June's. Ha ha ha, I already said that she's a fake. What qualifications does this kind of ugly trash have to be compared with our Great God June? Bah, with that face of hers, she still has the nerve to say that our Great God Yi is ugly. What a big face. Our Great God Yi is much more beautiful than her. Ling Qingwan listens to the murmurs of the crowd, and her body uncontrollably trembles. She tremblingly takes out a lioli glass, and slowly raises it in front of her eyes. In the mirror, there's a woman who can be considered somewhat good-looking. But this beauty is completely incomparable to June Muyen's original stunning beauty. That's clearly Ling Qingwan's own face. When she wore June Muyen's face, even if it was distorted and sinister, even if her hair was disheveled, there was still a trace of fragile beauty. But at this very moment, when this kind of embarrassing appearance is replaced by Ling Qingwan's own appearance, it only makes people feel unspeakably funny and nauseating. Star Wolf stares at her face for a long time, and suddenly exclaims, Ling Qingwan. You're the remnant of Tian Yi Men, Ling Qingwan. He abruptly turns to look at Di Mingju. But he sees that there's not a trace of surprise on Di Mingju's face, and his eyes don't leave Mayan for even a moment. From the beginning to the end, Jun Shangdaran has never put this impostor in his eyes. He only kept her because he recognized who she was at first glance, and wanted to use her to catch other big fish. Star Wolf immediately feels ashamed of his inferiority, wishing he could find a hole to burrow into. Such a disgusting woman, he almost mistook her for a female devil just now. And he even mistook her in front of the main character. He turns his head to look at the indifferent Mu Yen, and his body subconsciously shivers. It's over. This time, the female devil will definitely kill him. Mu Yen sneers, and with a backhand grab, she pulls out a long sword from the Star Wolf's waist and presses it against Ling Qingwan's throat. Tell me, how did you manage to make your face resemble June Muyen's? Where are your accomplices? Star Wolf looked at his empty scabbard and lowered his head, not even daring to let out a fart. Ling Qingwan regains her senses from the shock of her mental collapse. She only feels despair. She looked at Di Mingju and cried loudly, Di Jun, I am Qingwan, do you still remember me? You must remember me, right? I am your fiancé, yes, I am your fiancé, the future mistress of the polar domain. That Jun Mayan and that ugly Yi Liangqin are just mistresses who inserted themselves into our relationship. There's no one in this world who loves you more than I do. Emperor, you definitely won't abandon me, right? Emperor, have you forgotten the wonderful times we once spent in the polar domain? Mu Yen turns her head and coldly glances at Di Mingju. Jun Shangdaran immediately dissociates himself, Ben Jun did not. Mu Yen sneers, whether you have it or not, what does it have to do with me? Even if you had 8 or 10 fiancés in the past, this young lady has no interest in them. But this woman, I must kill her. In the Yanwu continent, she caused Chang Yu's death, almost separating her and Xiao Bao's flesh and blood. In the Shuzhen continent, she forced her into desperate straits again and again. She even used her face, impersonated her identity, and tried in vain to snatch everything from her. Chapter 25:10. The dust settles, too. Mu Yen throws the sword in her hand. The sword whistles and goes straight for Ling Qingwan's chest. However, at some point in time, Liu had actually quietly arrived behind Ling Qingwan. When the sword pierces Ling Qingwan's chest, Liu Yu takes out a sack and covers Ling Qingwan and himself. Then, there's a puffing sound and white smoke. The two figures completely disappear from Cloud Phoenix Hall. Mu Yan's eyes turn cold. Ran away. Heh, do you think you can run away? She turns to leave Cloud Phoenix Hall to chase after them. She has only taken 2 steps when she is hugged by Di Mingju. Wait. Mu Yen says coldly, what, you can't bear to kill your fiancé? Di Mingju smiles lightly, who is Ben Jun's fiancé? Didn't I just say it clearly? Mu Yan is about to speak when she hears Di Mingju whispering in her ear, Ben Jun has already letting Mei follow them. What's the use of catching Ling Qingwan? The ghost behind her is the one that Ben Jun wants to get rid of. That ghost behind her. Mu Yan instantly thinks of the crazy woman who wants to kill her. Obviously, that woman's cultivation is much higher than Ling Qingwan's, and her shrewdness is also far deeper than Ling Qingwan's. This person is still alive and her whereabouts are unknown. This is the reason why Mu Yan doesn't dare to show up as Jun Mu Yan. Mu Yan glares at Di Mingju and is about to speak. She hears Shou Daoi yell, Chu Mingkuan, where do you want to go? As soon as Mayan turns her head, she sees Chu Mingkuan sneakily trying to slip away. After being called, he not only doesn't stop, he even madly rushes to the entrance of Cloud Phoenix Hall. However, he hasn't taken 2 steps when he is kicked back by Xing Lang. Xing Lang, Jun Shang is here, without Jun Shang's permission, who dares to leave? Chu Mingkuan is dizzy from the kick. When he looks up, there is obvious panic in his eyes. You, what do you want to do? Do you know who I am? I am from Dingwa Manor. Mayan sneers, stepping on his head with 1 foot, I don't care if you're from the Dingwa Marquis Manor or whatever it is. If you're willing to bet, you must be willing to lose. Don't you understand? Chu Mingkuan stuttered, I don't understand what you're talking about. Mu Yan fiercely exerts force on his feet, and Chu Mingkuan immediately lets out a miserable howl like a pig being slaughtered. She said slowly, hand over the Celestial Dragon City. Now, do you understand? Chu Mingkuan trembled all over and shook his head in horror. I can't make the decision. I have to go back and report to the Marquis. Before he could finish, Chu Tianyu took a step forward and said, Miss, the City Lord token is in Chu Mingkuan's hands. As long as you have the City Lord's token, whether it's the defense formation or the troops stationed inside, you can mobilize them at will. Chu Mingkuan's eyes widened as he stared at Chu Tianyu in shock. You, how did you know? Who are you? Chu Tianyu slowly smiled. Who am I? I am someone who crazily desires for the Dingwa Manor and Chu Xinyan to go to hell and be consigned to eternal damnation. This guy is about to die, yet he still dares to hide something. Luo Yu angrily said, Sixth sister, give him to me, I will definitely make him spit out the thing. Mu Yan smiled and raised her hand, directly knocking Chu Mingkuan out, so disobedient, it's better to bring him back to third brother for training. Luo Yu. Sixth sister, this move of yours is really ruthless. Chapter 25:11. The dust settles. 3. Those who had been trained by the perverted third senior brother were 100 times more miserable than death. At this point, the alchemy competition came to an end. The rewards for the champion of the alchemy competition were exceptionally generous, but Mu Yan did not accept them. She threw them all to the Dragon Soaring Academy. As for the invitations from the Lan family empire, the sects and aristocratic families, and the other continents' imperial families, Mayan refused them without the slightest hesitation. As for those who tried every possible way to find out her true identity, she simply ignored them. The group of them took the lead in leaving the Cloud Phoenix Hall and headed in the direction of the Dragon Soaring Academy. After walking out of the Cloud Phoenix Hall, the Star Wolf suddenly turned around and threw out an array disc. The array disc floated above the Cloud Phoenix Hall and gradually expanded. Finally, it transformed into a huge blue net that enveloped the entire Cloud Phoenix Hall. Then, it disappeared without a trace. Zhou Daoi asked cautiously, "Emperor, Immortal, may I ask what this is?" Star Wolf said indifferently, "I'm just making them forget what they shouldn't remember." For example, Di Mingju's face and some conversations about the Shushin continent. The stronger one was, the greater the karma of the heavenly Tao would place on a cultivator. The space barrier can stop Xing Lang and Leng Yuexia, but it can't stop Di Mingju. But at the same time, Di Mingju's actions in the Shushin continent have caused too much of an impact, or attracted too much attention. This would trigger the karma of the heavenly Tao, and ultimately cause a backlash against Di Mingju. Hearing that, Zhou Daoi doesn't dare to say anything more. He wants to say something but then hesitates. His gaze looks at Mayan from time to time, then looks at Di Mingju. He seemed to want to say something, but he didn't dare to. Does the Emperor know that Yap Liangchen is Miss June? Is he aware that Yap Liangchen is Miss June? If he didn't know, why would he call Yap Liangchen his fiancée in front of everyone? But if they knew, why did the two of them act like they were strangers? Executive Zhou expressed that he didn't understand and was so tired. The flying ship soon arrived at Dragon Soaring Academy. As soon as they entered the Tianlang Palace, Yun Ruhan and the others immediately came to greet them. Ling Yuma pulled Luo Yu's ear and said angrily, "You heartless Xiao Qi, going to the palace is such a fun thing and you didn't call me along." Fourth senior sister, it hurts. Yun Ruhan asked, "Junior sister, what's the outcome of the pill competition?" "Hee, eldest senior brother, aren't you spouting nonsense?" With sixth senior sister making a move, there's no reason for her not to take first place. Luo Yu suddenly thought of something. "Oh right, third senior brother, we also brought back a toy for you." Hee, if you have fun, you have to help sixth senior sister dig out what she wants. Mu Yan stretched herself and said with a faint smile, "I'm a little tired, I'm going to rest first." In this 1 month, she practically did not rest for a single day. All of her energy was focused on refining pills. It was just an exaggeration for others to say that it could be broken into 2 in 2 hours. She had actually divided the 2 hours into 12 hours. Others had only seen her learn how to refine 10th grade elixirs in a month, and she had even slaughtered the pill competitions for rankings. How could he know how much effort she had put in and how much she had spent during this period of time? Yun Ruhan and the others hurriedly urged her to rest. After Mu Yan left, Luo Yu yawned and was about to go rest. Suddenly, he stopped in his tracks, remembering something that he had forgotten. Where's Teacher Mo? As soon as Mayan enters the room, she feels her wrist tighten, and she's being yanked away. Without waiting for her to struggle, her body is firmly pinned against the wall. The man's familiar breath, accompanied by a scorching heat, breathes into her ears. Chapter 25:12. The dark, hoarse voice suppresses a surging desire. How, after Ben Jun supported you, you want to burn the bridge after crossing the river? Fiancé. Mayan struggles, but she can't break free from the man's grip. She can only give him a ruthless kick. You recognized me a long time ago. Bastard, he actually pretends not to recognize her, and has a businesslike attitude like he was sent by Little Joe's master to support her. Di Ming reaches out his hand and gently brushes her face. The girl's somewhat dark yellow skin becomes as delicate and fair as congealed fat. In a split second, her originally ordinary facial features are like a dusty pearl that has been dusted off, emitting a dazzling brilliance. Di Ming chuckles, Yen, even if you turn into ashes, Ben Jun would never mistake you. Did you think that Ben Jun recognized you, recognized your skin? This sentence was not only telling Mu Yan that Di Ming had recognized her disguise at first glance. It's also telling her that even if Ling Qingwan has a face similar to hers, Jun Shangdaran would never mistake her for even the slightest bit. Most of the resentment in Mayan's heart dissipates in an instant, replaced by joy and sweetness. Di Ming leans close to her ear and whispers, "Ben Jun's answer to this question, does it count as a full score?" Mayan gives him a sidelong glance. "It's already good enough to give you a pass, but you still expect a full score. Don't you think about who told me that Tianyi men had already been destroyed, and that I don't need to worry?" Di Ming is sluggish, slightly lowering his eyes. He says in a hoarse voice, "It's Ben Jun's fault." Thinking of that day when Mayan was hunted down and almost lost her life, it's hair-raising. Thinking of Ling Qingwan's face that resembles Mayan's and the numerous conspiracies hidden behind it. Di Ming's heart palpitates. This time, it's his fault. Cutting weeds without removing the roots has brought hidden dangers to Mayan, almost causing her to die, and also consigning himself to eternal damnation. Yan, I'm sorry, it won't happen again." Listening to the man's hoarse voice filled with pain and remorse, Mayan's heart softens. This isn't what you wanted, you don't have to. The word self-blame hasn't left her mouth. Di Ming has already grabbed Mayan's hand and pressed it against his chest, slowly saying, "The mistake is too serious, there's no way to make it up. Ben Jun can only devote my life to you as compensation." Mayan, Di Ming. As the fucking polar domain's sovereign lord, can you be any more shameless? The shocked expression on the young girl's face was especially cute. Di Ming felt a fire burning in his chest. Remembering that Mu Yan is Han Chujia's apprentice, he couldn't help but feel his blood boiling. He grabs the back of Mayan's neck and brings her in front of him. Unable to restrain himself, he kisses her heavily. Yan, so it turns out that the Medicine King's disciple is the one who developed the antidote and saved me and the polar domain. Scorching kisses fell on the girl's forehead, nose tip, and lips. It was filled with endless love and passion. I never knew that my Yan was actually so powerful, so powerful. So powerful that his life was extended by her hands. Mayan lightly snorts. "This is the first day you know how powerful this lady is." Devour his breathing is slightly ragged, his voice hoarse. "I don't know either." The peacock that little Joe's master mentioned, who likes to attract bees and butterflies, is Juan Shangdaran. By the way, what kind of poison did you get back then? Why did little Joe's master say that you were deeply poisoned, and you were so heavily injured, but he didn't tell me? Oh. All the voices disappear in Di Ming's kiss. When they separate, Mayan only feels that her whole body is about to faint. Chapter 25:13. 1 second. Remember, LoveNet, to provide you with exciting reading. Suddenly, Mayan comes back to her senses and grits her teeth. "Are you trying to change the subject? Tell me honestly, how badly were your injuries?" Di Ming Ju smiles as he grabs her struggling hands, softly saying, Yan, Ben Jun is fine right now, how could something happen to him? If Yan doesn't believe me, I might as well let you examine it right now. Mu Yan kicks the man. "Don't pretend to be stupid, today's matter is over. Jun Shangdaran, your real fiancé, the one you grew up with, Qingwan Xianji, is still waiting for you to save her and cherish her." After saying that, she took advantage of the man's distraction to turn around and hide. However, before he could take 2 steps, he was pulled back and pressed against the wall again. Ben Jun has always only had one fiancé. That's you, Jun Mayan. Di Ming Ju looks at the girl in front of him. As for what childhood sweetheart, Ben Jun does not recognize it. He paused for a moment, then slowly said, "Before I became an adult, I didn't have anyone by my side. It was only after I returned from the cultivation world's calamity that defeating armies started following me. There had never been a childhood sweetheart, no matter if it was a man or a woman. From start to finish, the position at Ben Jun's side has only been left for June Mayan alone. Mayan's cheeks redden, and the corners of her mouth can't help but curve up, but she forcibly suppresses it. Her heart was filled with sweetness and softness. He also thought to himself, June Shangdaran is really getting better and better at saying sweet words and honeyed words. According to Bai Xie's words, it was the 10th level of love talk, and it seemed like he was self-taught. As for this Ling Qingwan, Di Mingju's gaze turns cold. In the past, Tian Men's Ling Yuexia had some kindness towards my father. Therefore, my father told the polar domain to take care of the Tian men. Humph, Ben Jun didn't know that a single sentence of taking care of them would cause these people to have ambitions that they shouldn't have. At that time, I annihilated the Tian men, but I let Ling Yuexia and Ling Qingwan escape. I originally thought that under the pursuit of the whole region, they wouldn't be able to escape even if they grew wings. I didn't expect them to actually come to the cultivation continent. Di Mingju slightly narrows his eyes. If one wanted to travel from the Shushan continent to the Shuzhen continent, they would need to pass through the barrier of time and space. Moreover, the space-time barrier was not something that could be easily passed through. One way was to use a space-time treasure like the universe mirror, which was also the safest way. However, such space-time treasures were extremely rare. The other method is to pass through the gap in the space-time barrier and enter the cultivation world. This method had a certain degree of danger, and the higher the cultivation of the cultivator, the greater the chance of being devoured by the spatial barrier. However, even if it was the second method, not everyone could do it. Because in the entire Shushan continent, there were only a few dozen such space-time rifts. Each place was controlled by a sect or family. Ling Qingwan and Ling Yuexia were chased by the polar domain like stray dogs. It was reasonable to say that it was simply impossible for them to find the space-time gap and come to the cultivation continent. The only possibility was that someone had taken them in and allowed them to pass through the space-time rift. In the end, it almost caused irreversible damage to Mu Yan. Thinking of this, Di Mingju's heart surges with a violent murderous intent. This time, he must track down Ling Qingwan, follow the vines to the melon, and exterminate all the demons and monsters behind the scenes. He would never allow anyone in this world to threaten Mayan's safety. In a secluded courtyard, Ling Qingwan suddenly opens her eyes and screams in horror, "Don't kill me! Don't kill me! I am June Mayan, I am Di Jun's fiancé, no one can kill me." Mobile users, please browse and read. For a better reading experience, please visit the website. Chapter 25:14. 1 second. Remember, LoveNet, providing you with exciting reading. Before the scream ended, a whip ruthlessly lashed Ling Qingwan's body, directly turning her into a bloody mess. Ling Qingwan screamed and looked up at the person holding the whip. "Lu Yu, you dare. Who do you think you are? You actually dare to hit?" Without waiting for her to finish speaking, the whip in Lu Yu's hand had already fallen like raindrops. Ling Qingwan kept screaming and rolling on the ground. She wanted to use her immortal energy, but in the Cloud Phoenix Hall, in order to refine the Imperial Pill and restore her appearance, the immortal energy in her body had been completely exhausted. When she wanted to borrow the spiritual energy of the Shushan continent, she suddenly discovered that her dantian seemed to be enveloped by a layer of strange energy, losing the ability to communicate with heaven and earth. Ling Qingwan was simply shocked and angry. What did you do to me?" Lu Yu looked at her battered and exhausted appearance and sneered. He put away the whip and laughed cruelly. "Immortal Fairy Qingwan, why are you in such a hurry? Didn't I just seal the ability of your dantian to transform spiritual energy?" Seeing Ling Qingwan's disbelieving look, he saw that he could do it. Lu Yu used a pair of sinister eyes to look her up and down. Gnashing his teeth, he said, "Useless trash. I originally thought that it would be easy for you to become the champion of the alchemy competition. That's why I allowed you to act like a tyrant over my head. But I didn't expect that even if you lost to Yi Liangqin, you can't even deal with a man. Do you think my Dingwa Manor is a charity hole? We provided you with the best resources and helped you build momentum in Tianguang ruins, but in the end, you can't even do such a small thing. Do you think you can still escape unscathed? For this pill competition, Dingwa Manor put in a lot of effort. Moreover, before Chu Xinyan went into seclusion, he gave full authority over this matter to Lu Yu. Lu Yu knew too well that if Dingwa Manor put in so much effort and ended up with nothing, what kind of miserable fate would await him? Ling Qingwan met Lu Yu's venomous and cold gaze and her body couldn't help but tremble. This man, in front of her, always had a humble, cowardly, fawning and infatuated look. But now, it finally revealed its sharp fangs that made Ling Qingwan tremble in fear. However, the fear only lasted for a moment. Ling Qingwan quickly regained her composure and resumed her aloof attitude. Disgraceful thing, who do you think you are? How dare you treat me like this? Do you know who I am? In my eyes, all of you are just ants that I can casually stomp to death. Lu Yu, let me tell you, I'm the fiancé of the Emperor, the future Holy Empress of the Shushan continent. If you obey me and please me, I might be able to help you in the future and give you a chance to ascend. Ha 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 ha. Lu Yu seemed to have heard a joke, and he laughed so hard that his oily face trembled. The Emperor's fiancé. The future Holy Queen of the Shushan continent. Are you talking about the man who appeared in the Cloud Phoenix Palace Hall? Unfortunately, I don't even want to look at you. Oh, I forgot. I did take a look, but unfortunately, it was like looking at trash. Shut up. Shut up. Shut up. Ling Qingwan hysterically roared. The Emperor was only deceived by that slut Yi Liangqin. The person he truly loves in his heart is me. I'm his fiancée, I'm the mistress of the polar domain. Lu Yu didn't know where the polar domain was, nor did he know what kind of noble status the man that Ling Qingwan called the Emperor had. Mobile users, please browse and read. For a better reading experience, please visit the website. Chapter 25:15. 1 second. Remember, LoveNet, providing you with exciting reading. However, anyone with eyes could tell that the monarch had no interest in Ling Qingwan at all. In fact, he even wanted to kill her as soon as possible. Lu Yu took a step forward and grabbed Ling Qingwan's hair as he laughed sinisterly. For a useless piece of trash like you, do you know why I still racked my brains and did not hesitate to offend that terrifying man to bring you out of the Cloud Phoenix Palace Hall? He had even wasted one of his priceless teleportation formation discs. Ling Qingwan wailed in pain. Lu Yu laughed even more excitedly. This time I messed up the Marquis's matter, and I was originally doomed. I didn't expect that I would get a piece of good news. It turns out that immortal fairy Qingwan is really an immortal of the Shushan continent, and has already achieved an immortal body. TSK TSK TSK. Although I had my suspicions, I didn't expect that the so-called immortals of the Shushan continent were actually this kind of trash. Ling Qingwan protected her hair, and met Lu Yu's greedy and excited gaze. Her whole body tensed up, and a bad premonition welled up in her heart. You. What do you want to do? Lu Yu said faintly. The Marquis obtained a pill recipe decades ago, saying that by using all the hard blood of a person who has achieved an immortal body to refine a pill, one can break through the tribulation stage and achieve longevity. Without the chaotic tower and the medicine king's inheritance, the Marquis will definitely not let me go, but if I refine the immortal longevity pill in advance, I can definitely make up for it. TSK TSK TSK. Hearing this, Ling Qingwan's bewilderment turned into fear and anger. You dare. The heart blood is the location of all the essence of a cultivator. Taking out a drop can make a person extremely weak and drop their cultivation level. If all of it is taken out, then there is no doubt that they will die. Ling Qingwan looked around and found that there was an alchemy furnace in this room. The alchemy fire in the furnace burned fiercely. And beside the alchemy furnace sat a haggard-looking cultivator. It was the former top of the 9th grade spiritual pivot list, Dong Yulong. That day, Dong Yulong's plot to frame Yi Liangqin was exposed. He was directly electrocuted by Tianguang Su, and then permanently sealed. The punishment of the electrocution was extremely strong. Although Dong Yulong survived, his cultivation level and alchemy ability dropped by more than half. Moreover, he was muddle-headed. Once he used too much spiritual power, he would show signs of stupidity. Seeing that Ling Qingwan and Lu Yu were looking at him, Dong Yulong shrunk back a little, then cautiously said with a smile, "Lord Lu, the spirit herbs for refining the immortal longevity pill have been prepared. As long as the blood from the heart is extracted, we can start refining it." Lu Yu raised his hand and a dagger appeared in his hand. A dagger flashing with a cold light mercilessly stabs towards Ling Qingwan's heart. Ah! The pain, weakness, and fear of having the blood from the heart extracted was not something a normal injury could compare to. At this moment, Ling Qingwan finally panicked. She was afraid. She no longer had that high and mighty feeling of superiority. She screamed in horror and cried for mercy, "Don't take it anymore, don't take it anymore. I don't want to die, I don't want to die. As long as you let me go, I'm willing to do anything. Even if you want my body, I will. I will." Lu Yu's hands didn't stop moving at all. He looked at her face with disdain. If you still had that face of June Mayans. Lu Yu licked his lips. I would naturally be interested. But with this face now, I'll lose my appetite if I look at it more. Mobile users, please browse and read. For a better reading experience, please visit the website of self-love. Chapter 25:16. 1 second to remember, LoveNet, providing you with wonderful reading. The ridicule and disdain in Lu Yu's words made Ling Qingwan go crazy. Mayan's face was fine, but she, Ling Qingwan, was rejected even when she took the initiative to throw herself into his arms. Why? How could Ling Qingwan know? Because of the conflict between the effects of heaven eroding water and magnificent quicksand, it led to a gradual backlash. Now, her face not only returned to Ling Qingwan, but also became waxy yellow, and there were even obvious wrinkles on her eyebrows, eyes, and jaw. She didn't look like a young and beautiful woman in her 20s. On the contrary, she looked like a 40 or 50 years old vulgar peasant woman. Ling Qingwan was extremely jealous, but seeing that Lu Yu wanted to take her heart blood, there was only fear left. I'm just a hollow immortal. Even if you take my heart blood, the effect is not good. My master is a mystic immortal, yes. My master is a mystic immortal. If you want to take her heart blood, you should take my master's. Lu Yu's action of taking blood paused. Your master. Yes. Ling Qingwan's face was overflowing with tears and snot. She said repeatedly, my master's heart blood, the effect must be 100 times stronger than mine. You have to believe me, you must believe me. Lu Yu sneered, your master is a mystic immortal, how can I get her heart blood? You want to lie to me? No, it's not. I'm not lying to you, don't take my heart blood anymore, boo-hoo, I don't want to die. Ling Qingwan cried and screamed, my master was seriously injured some time ago, and her strength is less than 10%. And I will help you, I am willing to help you subdue my master, I beg you, spare my life. Lu Yu frowned slightly, his face showing a hint of hesitation. Ling Qingwan, this so-called immortal, was really weak in terms of bearing, intelligence, and strength. Lu Yu believed that even if she still had immortal power in her body, he could still deal with this fool with a little trick. And Ling Qingwan's current appearance was even uglier, vulgar, without half an immortal's qualifications. He was afraid that if taking this woman's heart blood was useless, how could he explain it to Master Ho? Seeing Lu Yu hesitate, Ling Qingwan hastily said in a loud voice, I swear to you, I will definitely help you capture my master. Only with her heart blood can you refine a true immortal longevity pill. As long as you let me go when the time comes. Lu Yu glanced at her. If you dare to lie to me, I promise you that your fate will be 100 times more miserable than it is now. Mu Yan slept for an entire 16 hours. When she wakes up from her sweet sleep, she finds that Di Mingju has been quietly sitting by her side, holding her in his arms. The setting sun shone in through the window, gilding everything in the room with a thin layer of red. Amidst the warm air, one could feel the tranquility and happiness of a lifetime of peace. Mu Yan looks at the man in front of her who she has decided to spend the rest of her life with. The corners of her mouth slightly curl up, and the corners of her eyes reveal a gentle and sweet smile. She reached out and gently grabbed the man's broad palm, but was quickly held back. Mu Yan opens her mouth and is about to speak. Then she hears a knock on the door from the outside, reporting to Jun Shang, there is news from the Yingmei side, they have found traces of Lang Yuexia. Mu Yan jumps up from the bed, and the charming and gentle warmth in the room fades away in a split second. With great difficulty, Jun Shang, Darren is ready to warm up with his fiancée, but his face is calm as he is pulled out of the room by Mu Yan. Mobile users, please browse and read. For a better reading experience, please visit Zii. Chapter 25:17. 1 second to remember, LoveNet, providing you with wonderful reading. Xing Lang, who is about to report, meets his Jun Shang's cold eyes. He can't help but shiver. He scratches his head in confusion. How did he offend Jun Shang? Mu Yan quickly asks, Ling Yuexia. That Tian Yimen sect master. The woman who tried to kill me. Where is she? Xing Lang calms his mind and quickly takes out the communication talisman sent by Yingmei and hands it to Mu Yan. The talisman is activated, only showing a map and a marked location. Obviously, that is the place where Yingmei found Lang Yuexia. Mu Yan looks at Di Mingju. Di Mingju nods and says, let's go. It's time to completely uproot the remaining evil of Tian Yimen and the threat of Mu Yan. Jun Shang. Just as they are about to leave, Xing Lang suddenly hesitates to speak. Jun Shang, aren't you forgetting something important? Di Mingju looks back at him. Mu Yan also shows a puzzled expression. Xing Lang looks at Di Mingju, then at Mu Yan. He speaks very carefully, as if he's afraid that someone will get angry. Jun Shang, did you forget that you promised Medicine Wang Darren to support his disciple? Yesterday, when he went to Cloud Phoenix Hall, Xing Lang originally wanted to help Jun Shang vent Medicine King's disciple's anger. As a result, when he arrived at Cloud Phoenix Hall, he was suddenly confused by the matter of the real and fake Jun Mayan. So much so that he completely forgot about it. Thinking about it now, Xing Lang's heart is full of guilt. Although Medicine King Han Chujiu is unreliable, his disciple saved his life, and even saved Di Jun's life. Xing Lang's heart is full of gratitude towards this Medicine King's precious disciple. He is also prepared to properly repay this kindness this time. He didn't expect that because of this sudden incident, he couldn't find out who is Medicine King's disciple in Cloud Phoenix Hall. Now, if he wants to find her, he can only rely on the connection between Di Mingju and her. On this day, Xing Lang has been waiting for Di Mingju to remember to look for Medicine King's disciple. Who knows, Di Jun seems to have completely forgotten about it. Xing Lang bears, and finally can't bear it anymore. He swallows his saliva, nervously looking at the somewhat lifeless Mayan. His voice becomes even more careful. Miss June, don't be angry. Although the Medicine King's disciple is a woman, Ruler has no feelings for her. The Medicine King wanted Ruler to marry his precious disciple, but was mercilessly rejected by Ruler. The Star Wolf is minding his own business as he speaks, completely not noticing that his Jun Shang's face has already darkened. Mu Yan shows a smile that isn't a smile. She glances at Di Mingju, and leisurely says, "So, there was such a thing, how come I didn't know about it?" Xing Lang anxiously said, "Miss June, you must not misunderstand Juanshang. Juanshang is completely uninterested in that Medicine King's disciple and will definitely not marry her. It's just that the Medicine King's disciple has saved our lives, so we agreed to help the Medicine King with a small favor." Xing Lang is now really afraid of Mayan. Especially when he had just foolishly mistaken Ling Qingwan for Jun Mayan. In addition, Di Mingju, this wife-doting maniac, is right in front of them. His usual arrogance was nowhere to be seen. Xing Lang is afraid that Mayan will get angry because Di Mingju wants to help another woman, so he desperately tries to explain. But he sees Mayan giggling, completely uninteresting. Will never marry the Medicine King's disciple? Di Mingju hugs her, gritting his teeth. Shut up. Benjun has now changed his mind. In this life, Benjun will only marry one person, and that is the apprentice of Medicine King Han Chujius. Mobile users, please browse to read, for a better reading experience. Chapter 25:18. 1 second to remember, LoveNet, to provide you with wonderful reading. Mayan couldn't hold it in anymore, she convulses with laughter. Di Mingju ruthlessly scrapes her nose. Heartless little girl, for whom did Benjun keep his life like a jade? Xing Lang's eyes widen. He looks at the angry Di Mingju in shock and confusion, and then looks at the laughing Mayan. Gradually, an unbelievable thought emerges in his mind. Medicine King's disciple, could it be? Mayan turns to look at Xing Lang, the corners of her mouth hooking up into a playful arc. Xing Lang, haven't you even inquired about the identity of your savior? Even if you don't inquire, you should know by casually asking around in Tianguang ruins. Everyone in the Shuzhen continent knows that the sacred ancestor Medicine King only has one disciple, named Yi Liangqin. In front of a cave at the summit of the Feng Tian mountain range. Ling Yuexia is lying on the ground in a sorry state, her body mottled with scars, and the corner of her mouth is stained with blood that hasn't dried yet. She looks up at Ling Qingwan, her face filled with disbelief, anger, and shock. You evil disciple, you dare to betray me. Ling Qingwan grew up under Ling Yuexia's coercion. Now, when she meets her devouring gaze, her body instinctively shrunk and dodged. However, when she thinks of how Ling Yuexia disfigured her, and how she ordered her around like a dog, the fear on Ling Qingwan's face is mixed with a trace of nervous excitement. Master, don't blame me. At that time, didn't you teach me? Every man for himself, heaven and earth destroy him. I want to live, I don't want to die, so I'll have to trouble you to die for me. In order to make Ling Yuexia lose the ability to resist, it can be said that Ling Qingwan exerts all her strength. She knows that Tian Men has a top-level healing cultivation method, which only needs to be practiced for 49 days to heal most of the injuries. Moreover, this kind of cultivation only needs to circulate the immortal energy inside the body, and doesn't even need to absorb it from the outside. But this top-level healing cultivation method also has a fatal weakness. That was, on the day of the full moon, the immortal chi had to be retracted back into the dantian to be gathered and sorted out. Otherwise, the meridians would be in a mess, and one would go berserk. On this day every month, Ling Yuexia would become extremely weak, just like a mortal. Ling Qingwan had once accidentally seen this secret in the Tianyi men's ancient records. Lu Yu walked up to Ling Yuexia in a few steps and grabbed her hair. The dagger in his hand mercilessly pierced Ling Yuexia's heart. Lu Yu's dagger was specially made. As soon as the blade pierced his heart, a gurgling, bright red heat flowed into the porcelain bowl that Lu Yu was holding. Ling Yuexia let out a miserable howl and almost fainted from the pain. His gaze towards Ling Qingwan and Lu Yu was filled with bone-piercing hatred. Lu Yu didn't immediately extract all of Ling Yuexia's heart blood. Instead, he lowered his head and looked at the porcelain bowl in his hand. Seeing the bright-colored blood in the porcelain bowl, smelling the fragrance that was 100 times stronger than Ling Qingwan's, Lu Yu was so excited that his entire body began to tremble. Is this immortal power? Just by smelling it, he could feel the formidable power contained within it. Moreover, in his heart, there was also a faint impulse and desire. He wanted to drink this bowl of heart blood, and he wanted to become even more powerful. However, Lu Yu quickly calmed down. That prescription also mentioned that the blood of an immortal's heart couldn't be directly consumed, otherwise, the body would explode and die. Mobile users, please browse and read. For a better reading experience, come to Zii. Chapter 25:19. 1 second. Remember LoveNet, providing you with wonderful reading. Dong Yulong, come here. Lu Yu's voice trembled, and he looked at Dong Yulong greedily. Listen, I will give you all the blood from this woman's heart in a moment. If you can refine 2 immortal longevity pills for me, I promise you that for the rest of your life, you will eat and drink well, and you will be more carefree than Master Dong. But if you can't do it, Lu Yu revealed a sinister smile, you know the consequences. Dong Yulong trembled all over, and he opened his mouth to say that the immortal longevity pill was extremely difficult to refine. Let alone 2, he couldn't even guarantee 1. But he was afraid of Lu Yu, so he couldn't say half a word, and only nodded in fear. Lu Yu returned to Ling Yuexia, excited and happy, and couldn't help laughing. Ling Qingwan, you did a good job this time. If this time, Marquis and I can both get the immortal longevity pill, it's not bad to keep your little life for fun in the future. As for Ling Qingwan, who stayed by his side, Lu Yu naturally wouldn't say what kind of life she lived. Ling Qingwan's face was so ugly that he couldn't bear to say it, but she was an immortal after all. When he thought that a high and mighty immortal could be trampled under his feet, Lu Yu felt that it was not bad to keep her life. The fear on Ling Qingwan's face turned into ecstasy. Her dantian was still sealed, and she had been afraid that Lu Yu would kill her after she was no longer useful. Now that she heard Lu Yu personally admit that he would spare her life, the stone in her heart finally fell to the ground. As for her master Ling Yuexia's life and death, she couldn't care less. At most, after her dantian was unsealed, she would kill Lu Yu and avenge Ling Yuexia. Ling Qingwan smiled. Qingwan is willing to serve my lord. I still have many secrets of Tianyi men. Please my lord Lu must believe in my value. Hearing this, Ling Yuexia stared at Ling Qingwan with murderous eyes, as if she couldn't wait to rush over and tear her to pieces. Lu Yu, on the other hand, laughed loudly. After laughing, he grabbed Ling Yuexia's hair again, and the dagger in his hand was about to stab her heart again. This time, he would extract all of Ling Yuexia's blood from her forehead. He was going to use the life of this Xian immortal, who was once high and mighty, to achieve his own Tao of eternal life. However, just as the dagger was about to pierce into Ling Yuexia's chest, Ling Yuexia, who was in a sorry state, suddenly revealed a sinister and crazy smile. A bad premonition surged in Lu Yu's heart. He wanted to retreat in a flash. Suddenly, Ling Yuexia, who had been unable to move, reached out and grabbed his wrist that was holding the knife. Lu Yu's eyes widened as he desperately circulated the spiritual energy in his body. But soon, from Ling Yuexia's palm, an energy that was countless times stronger than spiritual power flowed into Lu Yu's body. It went straight to his limbs and bones. Ah! Lu Yu let out a blood-curdling scream. The meridians in his body ruptured inch by inch, and his entire body became a bloody mess. His body swayed and he fell to the ground in disbelief. His red eyes stared at Ling Yuexia. Impossible, impossible. Isn't your dantian sealed? Ling Yuexia ruthlessly stomped her foot and sneered, a mere mortal's technique also wants to trap a Xian immortal. A mere ant also dares to make a move against Ben Gong, who gave you the bear's heart and leopard's gall. Ling Yuexia played with the dagger. Her eyes were filled with ridicule and hatred. You dare to take the blood from this empress's heart? Fine, then this empress will make you bleed out every single drop of blood in your body and die. For mobile users, please browse and read. For a better reading experience, please visit the Self-Love website. Chapter 25-20. 1 second. Remember, LoveNet, providing you with wonderful reading. Lu Yu's eyes revealed obvious fear. He wanted to struggle and beg for mercy. Unfortunately, it was still too late. Ling Yuexia threw the dagger straight into his heart. In a split second, the blood in Lu Yu's body was sucked clean by this dagger, turning into a dry corpse. Ah! Dong Yulong was scared out of his wits when he saw this scene. He threw away the bowl in his hand and turned around to escape. Ling Yuexia raised his hand, and the dagger on Lu Yu's body flew out. It stabbed straight into Dong Yulong's back. Is this consort's heart blood something you can casually throw away? After dealing with the two of them, Ling Yuexia's gaze turned to Ling Qingwan. Ling Qingwan was scared silly at this time. Her legs went soft, and she directly sat on the ground. Tears and snot covered her face. Master, disciple was wrong, please forgive disciple. Disciple was also forced to do this. Ling Yuexia laughed sinisterly. He suddenly raised his hand, and a small red worm appeared in his palm. The transformed spiritual power stimulated the worm. Ling Qingwan's face immediately twisted, and she wailed miserably as she rolled on the ground. Wang Lianggu, this was a Wang Lianggu that could swallow a person's soul. The pain of the soul being bitten inch by inch was absolutely not something an ordinary person could bear. After a quarter of an hour, Ling Qingwan collapsed on the ground, her body twitching non-stop. At this moment, she even somewhat envied Lu Yu and Dong Yulong who died so easily. Because the pain of being tortured by the Wang Lianggu was even more unbearable than death. Ling Yuexia looked at her miserable and embarrassed appearance, then walked in front of her and sneered, Ling Qingwan, I raised you up, made you the young master of the Heaven Medicine sect, and planned for you to become the mistress of the polar domain. You evil disciple, this is how you repay me. Ling Qingwan trembled as tears streamed down her face. She cried and begged for mercy non-stop, Master, disciple was wrong. Spare my life, I beg you to spare me, disciple, I really had no other choice. I lost to that slut Yi Liang Qin in the alchemy competition. Later on, the emperor appeared, but he was completely indifferent to my beauty, and even said that Yi Liang Qin was his fiancée. Disciple was heavily injured by the emperor, and was also schemed against by that vile Lu Yu. I had no choice but to. Master, you have to believe in your disciple. Your disciple is loyal and devoted to you. There's absolutely no disloyalty. Ling Yuexia sneered at Ling Qingwan's words of loyalty. She didn't believe a single word of it. However, her face was filled with astonishment. Yap Liangqin. Who was this person? Also, the Celestial Emperor is here. Tell me everything that happened in the past few days. If you dare to hide anything. Seeing the Wang Liang mother insect in Ling Yuexia's hands, Ling Qingwan was scared out of her wits. She didn't dare to hide anything. She recounted everything that happened in the Tianguang ruins these past few days when she was suppressed by Yap Liangqin, as well as what happened in the pill competition. When Ling Yuexia heard the last part, her complexion greatly changed. She screamed in disbelief, "You idiot, you actually let Di Mingju recognize your identity." Her ears were ringing, and there was only one thought in her mind: escape. She must escape immediately. The Celestial Emperor will catch up very soon. With the Celestial Emperor's ability, knowing that Ling Qingwan is a remnant of the Tianyi men, how could he possibly allow her to escape? How could Ling Qingwan and Lu Yu, these two wastes, really escape? There's only one possibility: want to escape. At this moment, a cold voice rang out from the void. Ling Yuexia, do you think you can escape? That you're tuning into the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.